Okay, we should be squared away with that audio issue. Just needed a full system reboot. Even all the settings were right. I don't know. Sometimes just that magical reboot does it. All right. So if you had issues with the audio and you're just tuning in now, just to recap, we have some good line movement this morning. Weather doesn't seem to be as bad of an issue as previously thought. All right. So we'll go through the whole slate with Nephew Dave and the Ant-Man here right about 9:30 now, as we are a little bit behind. So let's go ahead and cue up Del Grande. Let's get into our conversation with him. And I think we're squared away. I'm going to go double check the audio in the other room, and we should be good to go. Now, I can't beat technology 100%. Sometimes we just got to roll with the punches. List of clutch performers, and you've seen a ton of clutch performers through your years, Dave. Where does Jose Altuve rank?
Wow. That's an awfully big list.
Right.
And the funny thing is, you tend to think more about guys who blew it in the clutch than guys who came up big in the clutch, because you have your eyes on certain guys like, oh, this is the guy that's going to come through in the end. And when they do, then it doesn't really make that big of an impact because you kind of expected it, but when they blow it, that's when they get the big headlines. And so, in the NBA, certainly a guy that, I hate to give, the obvious names, but, in the NBA, a guy who takes a lot of criticism because he hasn't won necessarily in the end, you would say would be LeBron. You think of him as a guy, well, he's made the finals, 10 times in his career, and he's only won 2 or 3 of them, or whatever the numbers are. But it takes a lot, what we're seeing Altuve do now and through a lot of the recent years in the postseason. It hasn't necessarily come on the grandest stage, of the World Series. But, when you see a game like last night, this was the league finals or whatever it was, you have to remember that, think of all the times that LeBron came through, not necessarily with the clutchest shot at the end, but just from, saving his, whenever you would get to Game 7 against LeBron's team, for how many years? For 15 years, you almost always lost. And again, it wasn't because he hit the big 3-pointer at the end of the game, but just because he was good. He was more like the pitcher who pitched great over the course of the game rather than the hitter who hit the one big homer. In baseball, the guy who comes to mind to me is Verlander. Verlander to me over the course of the last 15 years or so has been the number one pitcher that you don't want to face in the postseason. Now he's 95 years old now or whatever he is, and not necessarily on top of his game for years and years and years, not necessarily good teams. I think back to, it's kind of funny that, in reviewing the Giants having won 3 championships, 2010 and 2012, 2014, and think of, do you know who the Giants played in those 3 World Series? They played the Tigers, the Rangers, and the Royals.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yep.
The Tigers, the Rangers, and the Royals. It's, like, should those championships
Right.
even count?
Right.
But again, the point is that the Tigers had Verlander,
Uh-huh.
and so, and in series, back then, not all these series were 7 games. A lot of them were 5. And if you face Verlander in a 5-game series where he was pitching twice, good luck, because it wasn't just that, he struck out somebody with the bases loaded in the 9th inning, and he's the guy you remember as having saved the game. He was the guy that pitched the first 8 2/3 brilliantly,
Uh-huh.
that got an undermanned team. to that point. And, and again, the obvious name in football, how do you go against Brady? I mean,
right.
People keep thinking about, look at New England now and how mediocre, and I'm being kind, they are now and last year, and basically ever since Brady left. And yet you go back, to his, whatever, 15 years there, and the number of Super Bowls they made it to, the number of Super Bowls they won. How many times did he ever have a bad game in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl? I mean, teams just don't make the Super Bowl. Whatever it was for him, 7 times, 8 times,
right,
9 times.
And then just in the AFC Championship alone, they made it. They lost a bunch. They put out that long.
I mean, to me, when I think of the great clutch performers of all time, like I said, you're not getting the answer you want here from me. But I think of Brady, I think of LeBron. I mean, I think of those kinds of players who are just continued excellence in the clutch, just because nobody else has done it. I mean, sure. I mean, Jordan did it for, not over a sustained period like LeBron. No quarterback has ever done what Brady's done over a sustained period. Has Altuve reached, that level of those two guys? Well, I don't think he's there yet. But then again, Houston is having about as good a run in recent years as we've seen.
Yeah, it's a dynasty.
I can't tell you. Yeah,
it's a dynasty.
I can't tell you the last. You'd think, well, gee, the Yankees must have had a run like this. Well, yeah, it was probably in the 1920s. It's been a long time since every year we see the Astros, and every year people are rooting against them. And yeah, it's great. They're down 2-0. Too bad, you're out of here. And next thing you know, don't count us out. And the little guy steps up and hits, gets another big hit. So, I think it's great. I think it's great for him. And I think you're right. In some ways, he is a better story than Brady, than LeBron, just because you don't necessarily expect it. Maybe you should, but you don't necessarily expect the little guy to step up there and hit the big home run, in the most
time after time after time. Yeah, and I tend to look at it like on a scale of like 1 to 10, and guys maybe like you said, like Brady are up there at the 10. Altuve must be somewhere like at a 8.5 or 9 or somewhere like that. But how about like Robert Horry? That's a name who's not a superstar, but he's always made the big shot when he had to. He has half a dozen championships himself, right? So he's been a part of championship teams, and basketball well. So, anyone could kind of fill that role in the big moments. Doesn't necessarily have to be a superstar at times, right?
Yeah, it's what makes you think of when I think of the Warriors, quote unquote dynasty, or the nice run they've had here over the course of the last 8 or 9 years, which has kind of somewhat been similar to what Houston's done. And of course, the first guy you think of is Curry, and they had Durant there for a while. But the one shot, the biggest shot that was made, probably in the NBA playoffs, since in the Kerr era, since 2015, was actually made against the Warriors when Kyrie hit the shot at the end of the game. And it wasn't, the buzzer beater, but it was at, 2016, when the Warriors lost to the Cavaliers in Game 7, in a game where, about 2 minutes to go and the game was tied, and then the Warriors missed, then Cleveland missed, then the Warriors missed, then Cleveland missed. It just seemed like nobody was going to score, and then finally Kyrie hits the big shot, that denies the Warriors. What could have been, 5 titles in a row. And that, to me, of the one shot that I recall over the course of these last 8, 9 years, that what you would say the biggest shot that's been made, the Robert Horry type of shot that's been made in the last 8 or 9 years. I mean, nobody seems to like Kyrie anymore, but you got to give him credit for that
one. Okay, this year and last year were at about the same pace. This year a little bit more, and this has been the most unders we've had since I think 1990 so far through the 6 weeks. So when you have unders, that's going to be frustrating to prop players who are betting overs, of course, and frustrating to fantasy owners as well. So my friend Danielle, I mean, this sums it up in a nutshell. David Montgomery last week, 2 points. This is her team last week. Devontae Adams, 2 points. Mike Evans, 4 points. Kittle's 0 points. DK Metcalf, 6 points. What do you do to talk some of these owners off a ledge, Dave? You're the fantasy guru. It's been a tough time for some teams. I myself, I'm looking at 2.5, 3.7 at times. Like, this guy's not doing anything. Ridley, Thursday night, did nothing.
Yeah, man.
Did nothing. So what do you do to keep the spirits up of these fantasy owners right now?
Well, I mean, we talked a little about this in the past. But one of the fun aspects of fantasy is to make a trade. I mean, and I'm not talking about in a keeper league. A keeper league is a little different, where you've got to protect your future. But, I mean, let's be honest. What's at risk here? Nothing's at risk.
Right.
So what if you make the worst trade in fantasy history? And, you're not going anywhere anyway. And so, but, you're tired of this continuing to happen to you. And so go out there, shake things up. And I'll use myself as an example of this.
Yes.
And we talked about this trade that I made last week, where, I've got incredible depth on my team. And having incredible depth is not necessarily a great thing because it gives you a headache every week. You have too many guys who are too similar, you don't need 9 great players in fantasy. At wide receiver and running back, when you can only play 5, and so I made trade offers for Justin Jefferson and for Chase. And I traded basically the same package for both guys. I offered Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Swift, and Adam Thielen. Okay, now on the surface, you would say that what idiot would trade the number 1 pick in the draft for guys you drafted in the 5th, 6th, and 12th rounds? No, why are you even offering a trade like that? Nobody's going to take it.
Right.
But the fact is that, look at your team. The guy who had Jefferson, and Jefferson's injured obviously for a while now, right? He was 1-4 going into last week. If Jefferson misses the next 4 weeks, he's going to be 1-8, maybe 2-7 by the time he comes back. The season's over. So why not? Why not shake things up and try to go head in a different direction? And so, sure, he says, all right, what the heck, I'll make this trade. And he waited till the last minute. And the ESPN league, you have 48 hours to accept. I'm telling you, it was the 47th hour minimum before he responded and said, okay. Now, rule number 13 of fantasy football: never make a trade with a team you're playing in the next game. All right, well, I violated that trade here. So I go up against this guy. Now, obviously, Jefferson's not playing, right? But Raheem Mostert and Swift and Thielen, they scored 80 points last week. 80 some odd. It's like, and I had the second highest point total in the league. Guess who had the top point total in the league?
Oh, yeah.
The guy with the 1-4 record.
Right.
And all because, he decided this is my season is ruined. I'm going to quit. I'm not even going to look at my team anymore. No, he didn't do that. When the day Jefferson got injured, he said, you know what? I'm not even sure he was thinking about making a trade. but something convinced him, what the heck, these other three guys are having a good season. Well, why not? I'll do it. People might call me an idiot. And now look at him. I mean, now it's like, oh man, I'm not sure I want to play this guy down the line. So my point is, making a trade is fun. And even if it doesn't work out for you, it's almost like, you know what, I'm going to send a message to Calvin Ridley. I'm trading him for, Jawan Jennings. I don't care.
Right.
And take that, Calvin. And then some of these other guys. And what you don't want to do, obviously, is to make a terrible trade that impacts your league. And you want to trade Justin Jefferson for some guy who's who went to your high school. So you want to put him on your team and then give the championship to some other team. But you're not the only one in your league who's having a bad season or disappointing. Just look at the preseason projections and look at where these teams are now. There's a lot of other teams out there, I guarantee you, who are in the same boat as you, and maybe they're so down on the season that they're just going to give up. They're going to become one of these teams where, and at the end of the season, I'm one game behind. I need this team to beat the team that I'm competing against, and this guy isn't even submitting a lineup anymore. That's terrible. That ruins your league.
Oh yeah,
have a little pride.
I agree.
Yeah, have a little pride. Shake things up. If it doesn't work out for you, at least you're not rooting for the same disappointments all year long. You tried to make a move. You thought Mostert was having a good season. Lo and behold, he got injured the second week you had him, or whatever. Oh, well, you know what? You tried. So I would say that that would be the first thing, that I would do is, make a trade, make a couple of trades, shake things up a bit. And the other piece of advice I would give is, similar to what, a point that I was making about my team, is that you've played now 5 weeks or whatever of the fantasy season, 6 weeks. And you kind of know what you got. Right. And the worst thing you can have is a lot of depth. Because, like I said, depth doesn't help you. Depth just gives you a headache. I was tired. It's one of the reasons I made this trade was because, I have McCaffrey on my team. So, one of my running back spots was taken, right? And I have good depth at wide receiver. So I didn't have my flex spot open. So every week I had to make a decision. Do I want to play Swift, who's been great, or do I want to play Mostert, who's been great? And it's like, I want to play them both, but you can't, and it's a headache. And you play one and, I'm playing Swift, he's much more consistent, and Mostert's losing, touches. And then, Mostert scores 3 touchdowns, and it's like, I hate this, I'm going to give this headache of, the number 2 ranked, if he's still even number 2, he might be number 1 now, running back in the entire fantasy. I'm going to give that headache to somebody else. And that way I don't have to worry about that anymore. So what that I traded the number 1 running back in fantasy? I don't have the headache of whether I should play him or not every week. And I think that's something I would suggest for people. Look at your roster. Look at the guy, look at the guys who, who you are going to play a majority of the time, and the guys who you're always thinking, should I play him? Should I not play him? Should I play him? Should I not? Get rid of, a handful of those guys. Try to make a trade quantity for quality, because getting rid of quantity helps you in the sense that, all right, I don't have decisions anymore. Now I've got 2 good running backs and 3 good receivers, and I'm going to play them every week. as opposed to, wow, I've got 9 great guys. What a great job I did drafting. And all that does is, cause problems. So look at your roster, look at your depth, make somebody an offer, find one of the weaker teams that has a good player, has no running backs or has no receivers or has guys hurt. The list of guys you mentioned there a minute ago, the team that's, is stuck with these disappointing guys and say, hey, look, I got a, resolution to your problem. I'll give you these 3 guys, who will all start for you. And I just want one of your guys in return, and hope that, you can talk the other person into it. So that's, my 2 solutions to your problem there are kind of one and the same. Number one, make a trade. Don't be afraid. So what if things get worse? You'll draft again next season. And secondly, get rid of your depth. You don't need depth in fantasy. You need star power. Go out there and trade 3 of your guys for 1 guy. And even if it's not, you don't have to get Jefferson. You don't have to get Chase. You just have to get 1 guy where you say, all right, he's gonna be in my lineup every week, and I don't, I no longer have to sweat out, am I playing the right guy? Am I playing the wrong guy? So that's it's something else I mentioned there, which is a part of this as well, is think about the rest of your league. What you don't want to do is quit.
Right.
Because
yes.
that is going to,
when there's money involved alone, just the ethical standpoint that, you're giving someone else a layup, but, you might not be losing, but, or you might not be winning, but the fact that you don't play a team could cause another team who's rightfully doing well, who's not even involved with your game, to lose money, really.
Right. And so many leagues these days are friendly leagues. A league you're playing at your office or in your fraternity or, among friends, among old friends or whatever. You don't realize maybe because you're new to the league or you're not a big sports fan or whatever. A lot of people take these leagues very seriously, and what you don't want is for your relationship outside of fantasy football to be impacted by the fact that, oh, great, that's the guy that quit on our fantasy league and ruined it for everybody. Screw him. We're not inviting him to the next party. We're not inviting him back for the league next year. All because why? You didn't want to spend 5 minutes each week putting your best lineup on the field. Have some pride. I guess that's, that would be my, my message here. Is, even if you can't make a trade or whatever, your team is bad or whatever, have some pride. Try to beat somebody. Try to demonstrate to the people that you're playing with that, hey, you know what? Thanks for inviting me to your league. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to, I'll pick up a guy off of waivers. I'll take my, some chances. But, I'm not going to be this team that stops doing my lineups, scores 35 points, and loses by 90 points in a game where, somebody else needed me to win. So I think that you enter anything in life, any game you play, but you enter a fantasy league, have a little bit of pride.
All right. Let's intertwine all these things into one. We'll talk about headaches, injuries, bye weeks, and we're going to make that all into playing fantasy GM right now. And the teams with buys, there's 6 of them. And if you kind of compound that with the injuries, it might be slim pickings for some teams. So I'm going to throw some names at you, and we'll try to field the best team that we can. And you said it before, Dave. You can try to dress anyone up for a week and take them to the dance. But the teams with a bye week are the Bengals, the Cowboys, the Jets, the Panthers, the Texans, and the Titans. I mean, mostly with the quarterbacks, that's just going to affect Burrow and Prescott. But then after that, there's skill everywhere. Even Thielen is doing good for Carolina fantasy-wise. Okay, so if we need a quarterback this week, Dave, we have these players available. Who's the one that you're going to lean on? You have 5 to choose from. Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, Josh Dobbs, Baker Mayfield, Gardner Minshew.
Well, in looking at the games this week, what's left here, there's probably half the schedule, I would say, are games where I really want no part of.
Right.
That doesn't mean there won't be points scored, but it's you just don't know where they're coming from. And in that category, I would put Cleveland and Indy in that category.
Right.
Buffalo and New England.
Right.
Washington and the Giants. Now, Washington has been a fairly high-scoring team,
right?
But it's a division game. It's two teams that are trending in the wrong direction. Well, New York big time, but they're rivals. I expect them, a close, low-scoring game here, kind of what you would normally expect. Atlanta and Tampa Bay, Atlanta on the road. I don't see a whole lot happening there, and Detroit and Baltimore. Now, this Detroit and Baltimore is a great game on the field, terrible game in fantasy. And so I would immediately throw those 5 games out. Okay. And focus my attention on the other games.
So that leaves you with Dobbs or Pickett then.
Right. And I like both of them.
Okay.
I think that Pickett to me has more potential because, he's on a better team. He's getting Deontay Johnson back this week.
Okay.
The Rams are going to counter and, score a lot of points, but this is a game that Pittsburgh goes there thinking that, especially coming off a, big win over Baltimore, that they're back in it, that they can't let this one get away. I think that, to me, I don't think this is a 35-34 game, but I'd be surprised if both teams didn't score in the 20s in this game.
Okay.
And if that's the
maybe
case,
save this for all the picks when we get to we'll get to that.
I think that he would be my
top of the list. Okay.
My quarterback. Because you got to think of floor as well as ceiling when you're thinking about bringing in a guy who hasn't been great or whatever. I just can't imagine that Pickett's going to have a terrible game here. I think he's going to be at least league average, maybe slightly higher. And if that's what it takes, if you're replacing Burrow as your quarterback and someone says, well, I got a guy out there that's going to be slightly above league average, you know what? I'll take it. So that's my guy.
Okay. Running back wise, I'm going to assume then you'll throw out Kareem Hunt and Ezekiel Elliott. Maybe not. And your other choices would be Jalen Warren and Keontae Ingram for Arizona.
Good boy. Those are really my choices.
I know. It's a tough year for fantasy, and this is the dilemma some people have.
Well, but someone you didn't mention, which a guy would
or give me a name.
Well, definitely one on my roster right now, even though he could go, his value could bottom out depending upon the news. But I'd want Elijah Mitchell on my roster.
Okay, yeah.
They play Monday night, what should be a high scoring game. I find it hard to believe that they're going to play McCaffrey this week. I mean, he's banged up. It's a turf game. It's a game they probably think that they can win even without him. It's just, to me, it's like what's the urgency to rush him back for a game like this? I expect him to be out, and you won't know this, until at least Sunday. But if he's out, and Mitchell has, he hasn't been healthy this year, but last week he came back and played, and this week I fully expect him to be the starter if McCaffrey's out. I mean, you could plug him in to that spot and get yourself a legitimate starting running back, without having to, dig down to the, Arizona's third stringer or,
Right,
the other guy you mentioned in there. So
Jalen
that,
Warren, yep.
I'm sorry to go off the, off the board there, but that's what,
I feel like he's probably taken though a lot, or he's on some benches already.
Well, here's the, I think he was at the beginning of the season.
Right.
But because he got hurt and because people, at the beginning of the year, there's a lot of waiver wire moves. You got to drop somebody, and you tend to, whatever draft strategy you had. Well, I'm going to draft Mitchell because if McCaffrey gets hurt, I want him as a backup. That's a good draft strategy until you get 2 weeks into the season and you realize, oh boy, I need another running back who actually plays, or I need a wideout who actually plays. And there's some good guys out there, but who do I get rid of? Well, I'm going to get rid of Mitchell. He's already injured. And it appears this Mason guy has come in, maybe surpassed him. Screw it. Throw that brilliant strategy out the window. I think I was surprised in my league when I looked and he was available. I have a feeling, again, he might not be, but he might not even play this week. But I'll tell you what, I'd add him to my roster. No matter, again, I don't care how good your running backs are. I'd add him to my roster right now because this McCaffrey thing could linger. I mean, he might. He's had
the history of being injured too, for sure.
Well, yeah, and they play next week. I want to say against Cincinnati, and then they have a bye, and so it's a nice spot for them to say, you know what, take 3 weeks off. We'll go without you for these 2 games. We'll get a bye week. We'll be fine even if we go 1-1 in those games. You could luck into a 2-week starter, by going after him. And take a look at your waiver wire. If he's there, pick him up. And if he's not there, well, then, go back to plan B, which was, might as well be plan U for ugly.
Ingram. Right.
Yeah,
right. I mean, in some cases, it can't be worse than the lineup. What we read last week, George Kittle, 0, Evans, 4 points, Devontae, 2. Okay. This is an interesting one for wide receiver. So I'll give you 4 options here. And I think this guy's going to be thrown out no matter what. But I'll give you Berrios for the Dolphins. This is if you need a wide receiver, injuries, bye weeks, etc. You're trying to dig for someone on the waiver wire. Okay. Josh Palmer, Rashid Rice, or Scott from the Bears.
Well, you've got some good ones there. I mean, the first 3 guys you mentioned, well, especially the second and the third one. I mean, Rice, where you've touched on the Chargers Kansas City game with 2 different guys there.
Right. And there's probably going to be points there. I think we're going to agree on that when we get to it.
I mean, Rice to me is a guy, and again, ideally when you pick up a guy for 1 week, if you want to tell me, this guy's got the potential to be a long-term player for you, that's the tiebreaker. I'll go for him. Rice hasn't been, great necessarily, but he seems to be, that guy that Mahomes is gaining confidence in, and I think that this is a good matchup for him. So even if you're just picking him up for 1 week, I think he's got the potential to have a really nice game here. Kansas City and the Chargers, short of the Miami game. This could be the highest scoring game on the board. Picking up Palmer on the other side of that equation is probably a safer play. But it also, I think it has maybe a little less of a ceiling. And so either one of those guys, I have no problem putting in my lineup this week. But if you ask me to choose between the two, I'd go for Rice just because, like I said, he might come up really big in this game, at which point, Kansas City has their new, Tyreek Hill.
Right. They need a wide receiver number one. Maker. It's almost like there's a help wanted sign outside of Arrowhead.
Right.
Wide receiver number one needed,
Right. He could be, a fantasy difference maker for the rest of the season. So that would be, that would be my choice there. That's a much easier choice than anything you've given me so far.
All right, let's start in random order since we are on that game. We'll just start our slate with the Chiefs and the Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers. Let me get a fresh line up here as we click on to the old sports book. And we'll scroll on down to the 4 p.m. window, which this game will be.
By the way, since you mentioned sportsbook, and we were touching on other subjects as we often do early in the show.
Yep.
Before we get big time into football here,
yes.
I got because we, the way I talk, we tend to run out of time at the end.
right.
I gotta throw this out there.
Yes, go for it.
This is the lock of the season. Okay. And it's in basketball.
Okay.
The lock of the season. Victor Wembanyama, is the greatest player that's come into the NBA, in my opinion, since Kareem. He is unbelievably good. I mean, if you haven't seen him play and you're hearing comparisons, I mean, to me, he's like Giannis in terms of he's a huge guy. I mean, obviously he's a half a foot taller than Giannis, that he's a huge guy who's an incredible athlete, but he's like Durant in the sense that for his size, he handles the ball well. He shoots incredibly well from the perimeter and not just wide open shots. You get him the ball, he takes a step back, he shoots a three. I mean, it looks like it's Stephen Curry taking the shot. He is an absolute lock to win Rookie of the Year this year.
I don't know what that line. I'm sure he's a favorite.
I've seen it. Okay. Because I saw they mentioned it on the something. I forget what I was watching. I mean, the Warriors just played the Spurs last night, but I'm not sure that's where they mentioned it.
Right.
It showed him at -120. First off,
wow, yeah, that's
he should be -650.
Okay.
On that, and the only thing going against him is he's this big, frail 7'4" kid who's good, good potential that he's going to get hurt. And yes, that's true. It's very possible that he's going to get hurt. But most NBA players, it's very possible that they're going to get hurt. Except in his case, if he misses 20 games, he's still going to win Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is so much better than any other rookie. And you're basically getting even money. And it's not like, the number 2 pick in the draft or the number 3 pick or pick anybody else. You know what? He's really good. Yeah, he is really good. This guy is the best ever, right? And there is no way this guy is not going to win Rookie of the Year. And so, there's my lock of the year. Now, let me throw in a teaser, while you're at the window, take part of your winnings. I'm already counting my money of winning the Rookie of the Year, and put it on Wembanyama to win MVP of the league.
Wow!
You heard it here first.
That's all right.
He's going to be the MVP.
What's the price on that one?
Yeah, I don't know the price on that.
Okay,
but that's got to be. And I'm surprised.
Let me see if I can find it.
A lot of different sites and sources or whatever are doing their player power ratings or whatever for the year, and nobody has him in the top 10. You know, a lot of people don't even have him in the top 20. And it's like, are you kidding me? Have you seen this guy? You've never seen anybody like him. I guarantee it. You've never seen anybody like this guy. And I mean, again, 10-1 to win MVP. No, he's got to be way more than that.
Yeah, he's not even on the top 15. That's for sure. As I keep looking.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably talking about minimum 20-1, probably more than that. And it's, it is a legitimate long shot. I mean, there's a lot, as opposed to Rookie of the Year, Wembanyama could play a whole year and still not win the MVP because Jokic won it again, or Embiid had another big year, or Giannis, or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of candidates out there. And if he were to get hurt and miss 20 games, then he's not going to win the MVP because somebody, some Jason Tatum is going to pop up, on the, and the Celtics have the best record or whatever it is. So, but the point is that this is one where he'd have to be healthy.
81-1. 80-1. 80-1.
80-1. Okay, now 80-1. If you were betting on the Kentucky Derby, that's the horse with 3 legs. Right. This guy is, the best and most incredible, player that has come into the NBA. Now, granted, I'm not saying oh man, he's going to be the better than LeBron, better than Jordan. No, I mean that comes down to durability. If this guy only plays 3-4 years because he blows out his knee, well, of course he's not going to go down as the next LeBron or Jordan. But I really think he comes into the league. I think Kareem or Lou Alcindor or whatever he was called at the time, I think he was the greatest college player of all time. I think coming into the NBA, you knew that if this guy stayed healthy, he was going to have an incredible career, which of course he did. But this guy comes in my opinion, to the NBA with that kind of difference between him and anybody else who's been coming into the NBA. I mean, even Zion Williamson came into the league 3-4 years ago or whatever it was, and people said, "Oh man, this is a once in a decade kind of talent," and we really haven't seen it yet because he's gotten injured. But oh man, there is so no comparison.
Your basketball, Dave. There's no doubt about that. Okay, let me ask you this.
So anyway, that's
let me follow up on him.
Remember, you heard it here. Lock of the year, Wembanyama will win Rookie of the Year at even money. Even money. That no, you don't get even money on bets like that. Like I said, you lay $650, and then you said, "Oh man, yeah, it's a sure thing," but I ain't laying $650. If you pick the wrong, shop to bet, you're laying 6 to 5. You probably find them at even money somewhere. Oh man,
how about 12-1 to make the playoffs? The Spurs.
That's more difficult. I mean, they don't. First off, they have no incentive to make the playoffs.
Right.
If history tells us that, how did the Spurs get so good? 20-25 years ago. Well, it's because they got David Robinson, and then they got Tim Duncan on top of that.
Right.
It would behoove them to not make the playoffs, to get a lottery pick, a top 10, a top 5 would be ideal. And now you've got this guy. You've got your new lottery pick. You've got a couple nice young players. Keldon Johnson is a good young player.
Shohan's good. I like he plays that nice little tough, gritty roll down low with the rebounding. Jeremy Shohan, right? The Baylor kid.
Oh yeah. No, he's a good
role player.
5th or 6th man on a good team. Yeah. But unfortunately, they don't have the depth now where he could really play the role where on a good team, he'd be maybe your 6th or 7th man and come off the bench or whatever. But what they have at this point is a lot of money to spend, and you don't want to spend it until you think you're going to be good, right? So when Wembanyama comes in this year, he dominates the league. Now you've got this magnet. LeBron becomes a free agent next year. It's like, wow, would LeBron like to end his career with Popovich and with this guy? I assure you he would consider it. And not that you'd want LeBron necessarily at that point, but my point is that there's every big-time free agent that's out there next year. So first off, there's only a handful of teams that can afford to sign these kinds of guys, and most of them are really bad. Well, this is not one of those teams. This is a team that's going to be ready to win, going to have Wembanyama, going to have this lottery pick, going to have a couple other good young players, and now they can go out and sign them. They can be what the Miami Heat was when they brought in LeBron and Wade and Bosh. I mean, they could be the team that brings in 2 or 3 new guys on top of having the best player in the league. So next year is going to be the year, I think, that the Spurs are going to move way up. But this year, first off, the West is kind of stacked. I mean, you look at, who's not going to make the playoffs in the West, and because you've got 4 really good teams at the top. You've got Phoenix and Denver and the Lakers and the Warriors. I mean, those are, you would think, are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's like, whoa, wait a minute, no. What about the Clippers? If the Clippers are healthy, they've got a really good team. All right, yes, but good luck, finishing ahead of those the top group there. And then you got Sacramento, crying out loud. They were the 3 seed in the West last year. They're better this year. They got to be in there, right? You got Oklahoma City, who's a really good up and coming team.
They have a lot.
You got Minnesota, that made the playoffs last year and thinks they're better.
Right.
Of course, you got Dallas,
and Luka looks like he's in shape too.
Yeah, and you've got, who knows how it's going to work with having Kyrie on that team as well.
Right.
But we've mentioned 9 teams right there, and then there's New Orleans. If they've got a really good team, if Zion can stay healthy, those are 10 teams right there that all think they're going to make the playoffs. Well, there's only 8 spots, and now it's like, okay, well, what about the Spurs? The Spurs ain't finishing ahead, of 3 of the teams that I just mentioned. I mean, they might be the 10th best team. They might be the 9th. They're not going to, in order to finish in the top 8, other than my top 4, you're going to have to beat the Clippers or the Mavericks or the Pelicans or the Kings, the Thunder, the Timberwolves. No, they're not. They don't have that kind of talent yet. So to answer your, and then plus, like I said, they have zero incentive to make the playoffs this year. It would actually hurt them to make the playoffs. So I'd flip that and say, what kind of odds can I get on them not to make the playoffs this year? And hope to hit that.
Man, Tim Duncan was good. I remember watching him in college and following him all the way through. Okay, let's get back to this Kansas City game.
All right.
The Chargers. Let me ask you this. I asked you last week, I talked about the Chiefs maybe being a little unentertaining, disappointing, whatever the terminology I was using. Let me ask you this. Are you disappointed some in Justin Herbert? And should we? Well, I expect more from what we're getting from him, to be honest. And then it seems like he has some bad moments too.
Yes, I mean, he's my buddy and I debate what's the Chargers who's the bigger problem on the Chargers, the coach or the quarterback? And the coach who goes for 4th down, seemingly.
I think they're both off kilter, probably.
I'm telling you, if they, 2 weeks ago went for a crazy fourth down against Minnesota and almost cost them the game.
Course.
I think they would have fired him,
Right.
if they had gone ahead and lost that game. This last game against Dallas, same game that they played. I remember talking about this game with you last week, that every Chargers game is the same. It all comes down to the end, who has the ball at the end, and if it's the other team, they score and they win, and if it's Chargers, they don't score and they lose. And so it's exactly what happened last week. And if you watch, to me, one play demonstrates the Chargers' biggest problem, and that is at the very end of the game, they had it was like a 3rd and 9. They had plenty of, there was still like a minute and a half to go, more than a minute. You have plenty of time. All you needed was a field goal, to tie the game. You only needed to get maybe 30 more yards. You didn't need to be in a big hurry. So 3rd and you're going to go for it on 4th down. 4 downs. 3rd and 9. 29 out of the 30 teams in the league, right, would swing the ball out to the back or throw the ball to the tight end, get 5 or 6 yards, keep the drive alive, get to the line, depending upon where you are, quarterback sneak it across, get that first down, or, throw another little swing pass, move the chains. Yeah, you're killing some time, but it's okay. We need first downs now. This team ran a pattern. If you watch the last game, he's back to pass. He's got a fair amount of time, and he's looking downfield, and he throws the ball. Of course, he throws it right to the Dallas guy, about 10 yards down the field, somewhere near the marker. But it was like, why? It's like, why did he throw it to a guy who clearly wasn't open? Is because probably every other guy was being guarded. And the reason, the biggest problem there was he didn't have a guy to swing the ball out. He didn't have an emergency valve that's, all these other quarterbacks. Tom Brady would say, you know what? I don't need to win the game right here. I need to keep this drive alive. I'm going to swing the ball to Fournette out of the backfield, and he's going to gain 5 yards, and we're still alive. Instead, it's like, well, this guy's got a golden arm, and we're going to, we take shots down the field. Well, there's time for that, and there's time not for that. And this was one of those, this is not the time, unless the guy busts wide open, that you're going to throw that ball. But you've got, kind of a modern day Dan Marino. And I don't mean to say anything bad about Dan Marino, but I'm just comparing ability wise. In the old days, it was such, an asset to have this big time arm, big kid, big arm. We got the next Dan Marino. But unfortunately, over time, we've now seen these aren't necessarily the guys who turn into the NBA, the NFL stars. How many times are we going to have to see Ryan Leaf? Oh man, he's big, strong. Oh man, this is going to be a great quarterback for years. Jamarcus Russell,
right?
Man, he can throw the ball through the goalpost from 70 yards away. Yeah, from his knees. But we're great. Who throws the ball from their knees in the NBA, in the NFL? Twice I said NBA. In the NFL. We need, the winners these days are more of the Montana mode. Montana threw half his passes to Roger Craig, in his career, to his tight end. Tom Brady's been of that mode. I mean, who better to emulate, if you want to win, than Tom Brady? Tom Brady ever throw a ball more than 15 yards in his life? Right. He was the biggest criticism about him coming out of college. Well, he doesn't have that strong arm where he can throw from the left hash mark to the right sideline. Okay, so don't throw to the right sideline. Throw the ball 3 yards to Godwin.
When he had Randy Moss, he would, for sure. That was about it.
Yeah. So anyway, my point is that Herbert is one of these big arm, throw the ball down the field, take our chances. And these kinds of guys aren't winning anymore. So many of the best off. I mean, look at the 49ers. Brock Purdy is, they've got these great receivers, but where they're running their patterns, they're running them 5 yards down, crossing patterns in front of the linebackers, let them run with it. You see Goff is one of these quarterbacks. Goff never gets any credit, for anything that he did with the Rams. Geez, all they did was take him to a Super Bowl. And now, we're seeing it in Detroit. Well, geez, this guy, he's not a top 15 quarterback, but look at what he's doing. He's, throws the ball short. He moves the ball down the field. You were mentioning before, why is it that the scores are so much lower this year than they've been, in recent years or whatever? It's because so many of the teams have gone to this, ball control passing attack. Throw it the Brady style, the Aaron Rodgers style. They throw the ball short, throw it to the back. The clock keeps running. It's like a glorified running game. We'll pick up 5 here, 6 there, third down. There's probably never been as many third downs in NFL history as there's been this year. Why? Well, because we gained 5 on first down, we gained 4 on second down. And then we quarterback sneak on third down, the Eagles playbook. So so this is my biggest problem with Herbert, is that he's just the wrong style of quarterback, to be successful these days. And it's like, Randy Johnson coming back and pitching in baseball these days. If Randy Johnson returned to the major league, or even Nolan Ryan, if either one of those guys returned to the major leagues these days and went in there and threw their 103-mile-an-hour fastballs that blew guys away for all those years, these hitters would say, heck, I saw 103 miles an hour from that reliever last night. This is nothing new to us anymore. You don't win by throwing 103 miles an hour anymore. You win by, throwing your changeup and your slider on the corner. And that's what football has really, become. It's, not a fastball league anymore. It's a changeup league. And it's keeping scores down. But, you look at the quarterback ratings of these guys, just don't throw the interception. Don't take the sack. Keep moving the chains. Next thing you know, you've driven, 70 yards and kicked the field goal and used up half of the first quarter. And then the other team comes right back and they do the same thing. It's like 3-3 after one quarter, and neither quarterback has an incompletion. Like, how is this possible?
Right.
But this, so, that's my long-winded answer to the question, to your question. I think Herbert is the problem. I think that, again, nothing against him, but I just don't think that style is conducive to winning these days.
Which makes him a little overhyped in terms of fantasy and everything else we're trying to accomplish as well. So take the media hype for what it is.
But fantasy, especially with quarterbacks, fantasy is a bit of a different animal,
right?
Because some of the most successful fantasy quarterbacks now, because of the scoring system, are the guys that run. And you get a rushing TD, it's basically worth twice as much as a passing TD. Doesn't make any sense. But that's the way it is. You rush for 20 yards, you get 5 times as much credit for that than you do passing for 20 yards. I mean, it's just the scoring system for fantasy and for quarterbacks is just, we don't want to get me started there. It's just not right. But but the point is that you fantasy, if you at least with him, when he throws enough deep balls in a game where he's almost always going to get you, to a 300-yard threshold. He's always going to get you his 2 or 3 touchdown passes. You just know with him that somehow, some way, he's going to get to his projected number. Whereas, with some of these other guys, especially guys who don't run a lot, Again, the Brock Purdy, who he's 20 for 25 for 220 yards and one or two touchdowns. That that wins you on the football field, but that doesn't win you in
fantasy. Is 47.5 points too light for this game? That's the over.
You would think so.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay.
Again, the Chargers kind of only know one style of game, and that's
right.
Score points, and they fall behind. I mean, the good thing about being able to throw the ball downfield is if they fall behind in this game, 24-10 or whatever going into the fourth quarter, they're going to find a way to get their touchdown or two and do it quickly because they can do it quickly. The only problem is they're not going to stop the other team either. So, that sounds, like I said, I would project this to be the second highest scoring game of the week behind the Miami game. That sounds very reasonable to me.
All right. So all the props are green light for pretty much anything you want. This was actually a question. Let me just keep it to fantasy real quick. Kelsey has been a great fantasy tight end, of course. Who's been the second best tight end in the league?
Well, I was hoping it was going to be Andrews when I drafted him as the second best tight end. I think he's got the potential to be, still to be a real good tight end, but I think that others have passed him. I think we're going to see Waller. Is someone who is a good fit for Daniel Jones. Needs that short passing target. They don't have great wideouts. He should be a guy who is a very consistent, tight end. Is he the second best? I don't know that I would go there, but he's certainly a top 5 guy.
Laporte is starting to find himself up there a little bit too.
Well, Hawkinson is, to me, would probably be at this point what you consider to be the number 2 tight end, only because their team throws 40 to 50 passes every game, and especially now with Jefferson out, he's probably going to be even more of a target.
That's a hard question, Connor.
The answer to your question is there is no number 2 right now. But I would say those 3 guys are all in the equation. Goddard is surprisingly consistent for Philadelphia. Kittle, he has his day. He's inconsistent.
Schultz is starting to find his way for the Texans a little bit. Schultz is getting involved with the Texans. He's got scored a little bit.
Engram, is another guy who's it just demonstrates why Kelsey is a first round pick. It's like, a lot of these guys, other guys that we mentioned, they're pretty good. They have good days. They have days that you don't get much. Kelsey doesn't have days where he doesn't get much.
Right.
And
I think that's what I was getting at.
And I still think Andrews, so much of this is, well, what are the other options? There's 2 things that could make a tight end successful. Number 1 is you got a team like Minnesota that just throws the ball on every down. And just on sheer numbers alone, when the quarterback throws 45 to 50 times, he's going to throw, if you've got a decent tight end like they do, he's going to throw 8 to 10 times to his tight end. And so you get 8 to 10 targets at your tight end, you're immediately a top 5 guy. So that's one way you're going to be successful. The other way you're going to be successful is if the team doesn't have quality wideouts and you become the number 1 target. And that's what makes Andrews so valuable, is that Baltimore doesn't have good wideouts. This is what should make Waller, very valuable. And I think he, when all said and done, he's going to be a top 3 or 4 tight end. it's because the Giants have no quality wideouts. And so this is, like I said, this is the other way you become successful, is that you are the team's number one passing target. And so that's what when in drafting tight ends, that's probably the first thing that I would look at, is how good are the wide receivers on your team. And if it's like Kittle. I mean, Kittle's a very good tight end, but with McCaffrey getting a lot of passes, with Ayuk, with Debo, you just got, and this isn't a team that throws 40 times. The ball's just spread around too much.
Right.
And the best Kittle's ever going to get is 5 or 6 balls thrown to him. And when that's the case, you're never going to be considered, a possible, top tight end. You're always going to be on a really good day. You catch 4 or 5 of those balls. All right, you're the 5th, 6th, 7th best tight end. So that's I try attempting to identify who this number 2 guy is. I would still stick with Andrews and Waller as the guys that they're in the best situation. Well, and Hawkinson, those 3 guys are in the best situations for 2 different reasons. And so they, I'd always want them in the lineup because they should do well every game.
So you've mentioned it already. There's a ton of games you're going to run for the hills from, and that pretty much completes the list of non-AFC West, NFC West teams that we talk about, except for the one game you just mentioned with Miami and Philadelphia. I agree with you. I think this has a chance to get a lot of points, and I could see Miami even winning this game on the road. Philly, something doesn't seem quite right with me, especially losing last week to the Jets. Now, they are at home. It is a tough atmosphere. But the Dolphins got something going on, and I think actually the poor effort in Buffalo helps them in preparation for this game to some extent. They know that it's just not going to be easy to walk into someone else's house and take them down. I mean, they're liable to get their butts whooped if they're not prepared. That being said, I think they're definitely more prepared for this primetime game. And 51.5 is the over-under here. You definitely see the Dolphins getting theirs and the Eagles getting their points as well.
This is like, both from a fantasy perspective, this is rare too, both from a fantasy perspective and from a non-fantasy perspective. This is like game of the year. You can't have a better matchup than this. I can't imagine any matchup I'd rather see in terms of entertainment,
right,
in terms of good teams. Teams, they're healthy.
Right. They don't play each other much. Right. Could be a Super Bowl preview.
The difference between these 2 teams is neither one of these teams plays the way that I talked about before. The way you win in the NFL these days is by moving the chains, throwing the ball short, having possession receivers. Neither one of these teams has a possession receiver. I mean, and neither one of these teams has a quarterback that excels in the short passing game. So what this game comes down to, in my mind, is which team can put more pressure on the quarterback, because both of these quarterbacks are going to stand back there and wait for their big-time receivers to get open down the field. Philadelphia's got a far better, obviously, defense than Miami. Philadelphia's going to get to the quarterback. They're going to cause to make mistakes, to fumble, to throw the ball to, the wrong team. I think that, Miami doesn't have anywhere near that quality of defense, and Hurts isn't the kind of guy that gets sacked a lot either. He, when he sees trouble, it's not necessarily good for the defense, because that just means he takes off running and gets his 10 or 15 yards. So what we have here is 2 teams that can score, from any point in the field at any point. I mean, with Hill and Waddle on one side and then Smith and Brown on the other side, every play has the potential to be, a touchdown. With Mostert coming out of the backfield, catching balls and running. We've seen it. A chain when he was in there. Of course, he's not in there anymore. They've got these running backs who go 40 yards at a time. These are two. The Swift has given Philadelphia kind of a nice between the tackles runner this year, which I think will also be a difference in this game. I think Philly will be able to run the ball, when they need to, better than Miami will when they need to. I mean, third and 3, you got to keep the ball alive. Miami ain't running the ball. Philadelphia will run the ball, and that's part of that is, well, of course, Philadelphia is running against Miami's defense. Everybody can run on 3rd and 3 against Miami. But that to me is going to be a big difference here. I think Philly, they could vary. And weather, tonight game, you got to worry about the weather, obviously. But I'd be shocked if Philly doesn't score in the 40s in this game. I don't see how Miami's going to stop them. Like I said, I also think Miami will give Philadelphia probably at least 10 free points based on turnovers. And then Miami, they, sort of like we mentioned with the Chargers, Miami's the type of team where you think you got him beat, and next thing you know, he'll catch a 75-yard touchdown pass. And ching, 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 there goes, the pinball game. Right. Ball back to Philadelphia, and Miami can't stop them. I think just based on the difference in the defensive ability in this game, especially the ability to get to the quarterback, I think gives Philadelphia a huge edge in this game. And they're at home. I'm going to, if I had to project the final score of this game, I'm going to say it's going to be like 41-28. I think Philly will probably win this game pretty handily. But Miami's going to, Miami will find a way to score their points. So it should be incredibly entertaining. And like I said, the wild card in this game is when Miami's involved, you could be behind 7-0 after the first play of the game. And for all the talk about, we got the better defense and we'll grind it out against them. And you play one play and Hill's caught a 75-yard touchdown pass. And it's like, all right, throw that game plan out the window. Let's go. We need to score. We need to score 40 points to win this game. I don't know. I think this is going to be a fascinating game. But I also think, kind of like that Buffalo game, I think you're going to see in this game why Miami is not really a title contender. You can't be a title contender and have that kind of defense.
Interesting.
They're fun to watch. They've got to be the number one entertainment value in the NFL these days. It's probably not close. And this is wow, what a matchup. What a great game to have on Sunday night. Glad they got it into the spotlight. But I just don't, it's one of those teams that a baseball team that scores 8 runs each game but has no pitching. It's fun to watch, but in the end, they ain't going to win a championship.
Okay, if the Dolphins and the Eagles are one end of the spectrum, are the Raiders and the Bears on the exact other end?
Oh, God. Yes. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Raiders minus 2.5, 37.5. This actually could be a fun game in a weird way. I don't know. I gotta. Obviously, the backup quarterbacks are a big wild card here, but we shall see. What are your thoughts here?
I don't know how you compare backup quarterbacks, but I think it's safe to say that the Bears' backup quarterback has a chance to be the worst backup quarterback.
Right.
I can't imagine, with all the great quarterbacks in college football these days, that they would have to stoop to this level. And I don't get it. I mean, I really don't.
Well, you've mentioned it before. Like your backup should be somewhat of the same system that you're running, like Justin Fields.
That's, you know,
and here we are. I mean, this is night and day, right? With Bagnet.
Well, again, it's just. I mean, there's, you know, I don't know. It's just hard for me to, you know, to understand, you know, how, you know, there's 100 quarterbacks out there that I would think, based on their college career, you know, should be playing in this game that aren't. And I mean, I don't see how Chicago scores 14 points in this game, even against a Raider team that's obviously, you know, not very good. The biggest question that I have in this game that I don't get is the Raiders actually have, well, Raiders have two types of backup quarterbacks. Right. They have Hoyer, right, who they brought in, who's very much like Garoppolo. Right. You know, he's this, you know, throw 5 yards, throw to the back, you know, no mistake.
A little bit of a statue back there, you know, for sure.
Yeah, punt the ball. And in a game like this, where if the Raiders don't turn the ball over in this game, I don't see how they're going to lose. I mean, just because Chicago is not going to be capable of driving the ball down the field, you know, 40 or 50 yards. And if they do, they'll kick a field goal. I mean, you know, it's like, all right, Chicago, let's pencil Chicago in for 9 points in this game. How are we going to beat that team? Do we want to put a dynamic quarterback in there, a guy who's going to make plays, can throw the ball deep down the field? It's probably, you know, way better talent than our veteran guy. You know, I'm talking about O'Connell, right? Because he, you know, we need to give him experience. He might be the quarterback of our future. We really like him. Or do you say, no, let's play it safe. We only need to score 10 points. And if that's all we need to score this week, well, Hoyer can get us 10 points.
Right.
Hoyer could probably get us 17 points, you know. And it's not going to be pretty. You know, we're going to have a nice day from our punter. Right. You know, we're going to need a break from the other team, which they'll give us. You know, we just can't give it back. And a couple weeks ago when Garoppolo was out, even though Hoyer had been the backup quarterback, they skipped over him and they went to O'Connell. And it was a bad decision. I mean, he did not have a good game, as you would expect. The guy was playing in his first game. And now here we are again, you know, and so what did they do? The very next week when Garoppolo came back, Hoyer became the backup again. And here we are again with the same situation. And they've been secretive about who they're going to start. And, you know, and which kind of makes sense because these two guys are, one guy throws the ball down the field, one guy throws the ball short. Well, which one are we preparing for? You know, we got to prepare for both. So in this sense, keeping it a secret makes sense. But to me, if this is an indication that you haven't decided yet what you're going to do, well, then that's crazy because you've got to go with Hoyer in this game. And if Hoyer plays in this game, it increases the Raiders' chances of winning, but it vastly increases the chances that the game will be under because the Raiders then won't give the ball, won't give points away. And so, but we don't know this going in. And I really think that, there will be a 14-point difference in the total score based on who the Raiders play at quarterback. And that's only because the Raiders will go get 7 more and Chicago will get 7 more, based on, the hot and cold nature, of this rookie quarterback. So, if you get news today, tomorrow, that Hoyer's the quarterback, then the under in this game, to me, it makes a whole lot of sense. And if it's O'Connell, then, then this game has a real potential to disappoint you if you take the under and you watch the game and say, oh man, these offenses are terrible. And the next thing you know, there's intercepted. Oh, he's gone. And you get the two defensive scores.
Right.
And now with the final score ends up being 20-17. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. This game should have been 10-7. So, but it's a definite, to me, unless you're playing, kickers, unless you're going for defensive scores, that kind of thing, this is a definite stay away game from fantasy. If anybody plays any of these guys on their fantasy team, then I want to be playing that team.
Do you need your head examined if you take under 29.5 points at plus 450?
Well, not if Hoyer's quarterback.
Right.
I mean, again, it just he completely changes the game plan, and again, it's an indication to me that if you're the coach of the Raiders and you want to win this game, obviously they want to win this game, right? It's like, what's it going to take for us to win this game? And if the Raiders coach decides we're going to play Hoyer, that's an indication that in his mind, man, we just got to get to 10 before they get to 10, and then we'll win this game. If they go with O'Connell, then that's an indication that we don't really trust our defense. Chicago will find a way to score 17. We need to find a way to score 20. And so, I just see a completely different mindset, a completely different game plan, depending upon who the quarterback is. They announce Hoyer, then, you're under 29.5 becomes very attractive at that price.
All right. So a bad game there. We don't even know if that will make the TV cut here at 1 o'clock, even with the buys.
Well, again, you look at the the 1 o'clock schedule.
It's a little rough.
Cleveland and Indy,
yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Buffalo and New England, maybe 10 years ago, not today. Washington and New York, no thanks. Atlanta and Tampa Bay, oh, you've got to be kidding.
Right.
And then there's the one that stands out. I mean, Detroit. And who would, again, 10 years ago, who was Detroit and Baltimore, you would say the same thing. You've got to be kidding. But that game stands out. Thank goodness for that game, from a TV perspective. I mean, the TV producers or whatever, it's like, okay, we got one game we can show that people will actually watch. And even at that, it's not too.
Yeah, weather and wind's bound to pull it down into the muck as well.
Yeah, and right, but it is. They're two very similar teams.
Right.
Two teams that'll play conservatively.
Right.
Their defense try to win it. And it's a good test, especially for Detroit. I mean, we don't.
Yeah, it'll be a good chess match for sure.
Yeah, as you look at the NFC, and people keep trying to look for who's the team that could possibly knock off Philly or San Francisco at the end. Well, of course, Dallas is that one team that on their good day you would say, they've got a chance to beat either of those teams. But who's that next team? Who's the fourth of the final
Detroit.
four?
That's Detroit.
And so many people now are talking about Detroit. Ooh, they're the team to watch. Ooh, you don't want to play them. Oh, they're looking really good. But they've played on the opening night where they played Kansas City, right? And their entire schedule this year, is wow. When do they play a good team?
Right.
And this is one of them. And this isn't even an elite team, but this is a big test for them.
Right.
After all their games against Carolina, I mean, they did play Seattle at one point, but I guess Seattle's kind of similar to Baltimore. Like, okay, they're a solid middle of the pack team, and Detroit lost that game. So they're in need of saying, all right, you know what? Yeah, we've proven now we can beat Atlanta, we can beat Carolina, we can beat these kinds of teams. It's Tampa Bay, but we need to prove that we can beat that next level up, that's the Seattle level, which we've already failed at, and now this is Baltimore, which is at least on Seattle's level, and this is for everybody talking about Detroit's going to be that fourth team. Well, if they win this game, then that movement gets a lot more strength to it. But if they lose this game, and now all of a sudden they drop into the pack, now they're no better than Minnesota and Green Bay and Washington and New York. And like some and all of the South teams. So this is from Detroit fans' point of view. I think there's a lot of tension with this game. This is a game where this is a prove it game for them, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle it.
4:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Steelers and the Rams. You've kind of touched on that. This has a chance to put some points up, right? Go ahead and give that argument again.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that you've got the Rams, are surprisingly decent, and a big part of that is, they've got their passing game going. Stafford, when Stafford and Kupp are together, that's about as good as a connection as you find anywhere in the league. And just in sheer volume, I don't think anybody throws, a tandem throws one pass from one guy to the other as much as these two guys do. I mean, you can count on 15 targets every game for Kupp. And now, they've got a couple of the receivers around him that complement him well. And who knows what the Rams are doing for a running game. But they're not really a running team. They're a passing team. I think that at home they should be able to, get to, 20 points, 20 to 24 points in a game like this, which will give them a chance to win. And I think that Pittsburgh, with Johnson back, and coming off a nice win in their last game, they should have some confidence. I think that against the Rams, they should, they can be expected to score 20 to 24 points, mostly through the air. If this game were in the morning, you'd say, oh, man, this is the best game in the morning, because not only is it, a close game, but it should be fun because there's going to be a lot of passing and a fair amount of points scored. But in the afternoon, it's kind of dwarfed by, some of these other games we've already talked about. But this is, I think this game's could be a good game, and it's got you want a long shot prediction in this game. I think it's got a shot to go into overtime.
There we go. Yeah, I could see that.
You
for sure.
And pick a score that I know how much you love to pick the final scores of these games.
Right.
But I would look at the 23-20, 20 all going into overtime. I think both teams are going to score around 20. Pick a 23-20 or a 24-21. Kind of score. Take a stab at will this game go into overtime at
plus 1550 is the number for that.
Plus 1550.
Yep.
Wow, that's that's nice. That's I would I'd certainly take a shot with something like that. Oh man, parlay that to the 23-20 final score, and oh boy, you've got a lot of money to reinvest in Wembayana to win.
The Rams to win 24-21 pays 90-1, and the Steelers to win 24-21 pays 100-1. So there.
Yeah, now to me, with the problem with the what you would call a standard score like that. 24-21 is, 6 touchdowns and a field goal.
Right.
I mean, that's how you get there, right?
Right. Exactly.
I don't think either one. This isn't the Dolphins and the Eagles. I don't see that, every score except for one in this game being a touchdown. I don't think either one of these teams is that good where we're just going to march down, score touchdowns every time. I think this game like this, much more likely where, you end up at 20-20 because each team scored 2 touchdowns, each team got 2 field goals. I think that's going to be more the balance. So that's why I mentioned 23-20. And even 20-17, although I think it's going to be higher scoring than that, but 20-17, which is your vanilla final score, right? The most popular final score probably in NFL history, 20-17.
Something like that,
yeah. And while that seems a little lower scoring than I would expect, I would much rather go with that than I would with 24-21, just because of, how do you get to 20-17? Well, that's 4 touchdowns and 3 field goals. That's the mix I want. So 23-20 is my score, but 20-17 would be my
and just when you need that touchdown, that's when Aaron Donald or TJ Watt's going to show up and sack you and force you into a field goal.
Right, and that's it. I mean, neither, especially Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh offensively is not that good.
No, not at all. They've been really bad, actually. They haven't scored over 20 points in a very long time. I forget exactly what it is.
Yeah, and this is, this is a non-weather game. Not playing a good team. I've had a nice chance to prepare here. They're getting their top first, wide receiver 1B, back this week. I think the potential's there for them to have their best offensive game. That said, it's not going to be 31 points.
That's good that Deontay's coming back. I didn't see that, actually. You just told me.
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
They need him.
Yeah, I think
doesn't drop the ball.
I think they ruled Freiermuth out, but I think they've said that Johnson is returned. So that's big in a game like this because they need someone. Obviously Pickens, has the potential to go the distance on pretty much any catch, but they need someone on the other side of the field to keep the defense honest. And this guy, on his good days, he's just as good. I mean, they've got two real good wideouts.
No one's going to accuse me or you of being survivor pool geniuses, but are the Seahawks the survivor pick this week? They play the Cardinals 4:05 Eastern time at home. Bad loss. I've said it a couple of weeks ago, man. Geno just scares me. He does some stupid things, lobs it up at times, takes way too many sacks. That's for sure. Cardinals have played a little feisty here, but we just know they're not that good of a team. They're missing their running game as well. But Seattle and the Cardinals, 44.5 sounds kind of like a lot of points to me, to be honest. But minus 8.5, and maybe they get there. You've been kind of a fan of Arizona being able to put up some points themselves here. But what do you got here?
I got very little here, to be honest. I respect what Arizona's done. Similar to the Rams.
It's a bad spot for them.
Beginning of the year. Yeah. To me, this game reminds me of the Giants and the Redskins.
Right.
It's like the rivals. Nothing either team does is going to surprise the other.
Right.
And I think that
occasional ineptitude for sure.
Yeah, in Arizona, Arizona's played competitively. They can pass the ball a little bit. Seattle is not a powerhouse by any means. I don't really see them blowing out a lot of teams. It's just one of those, one of those afternoon games where you haven't had a good morning and you come back in the afternoon and you look at all these games and you look at them and you want to say, oh man, that's an over. Oh man, that's an over. Oh man, and then you think it's going to be this high scoring afternoon game, and then you watch these games and they turn out to be boring. And a lot of that is because you've got division rivals playing each other, and that's never a good, recipe for high scoring games.
Right.
And so I think this has the potential to be one of those games where it could be close. And I'd be shocked if this one really got rolling and got to be real high scoring or really got to be a blowout. I don't know. Something about this game says, you know what, stay away.
Has Geno Smith taken a step back in your mind from where he went last year?
I'd say yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe it's just that there've been a lot of good stories in the NFL this year.
Right.
And Seattle, I don't know. They haven't really done anything wrong. They had a bad loss earlier in the year. They had a tight loss, last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. They haven't played great, but they're not supposed to be great. They're supposed to be this 5th or 6th team in the NFC.
Yeah, C plus,
team that
C
goes,
plus, B minus.
Right. If you get to 10 wins, you go 10. If they go 10-7, they'll get into the playoffs, but they'll probably have done it kind of quietly. Not going to win their division, and are they on pace to go 10-7? They probably are. You win games like this. You got 4 games against Arizona and the Rams. They've already blown one of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that maybe, I keep expecting big things from their wideouts. They got Lockett, they got Metcalf, they seem to have a lot of weapons. But I don't know. That's just not the way, Pete Carroll wins games. He, wins games he likes to run the ball. He likes to have a solid defense. And maybe we're seeing more of that this year than we saw last year, because Seattle has actually become a little bit better team. They got a little bit stronger roster. And so there's less need for Geno to have to throw 3 touchdown passes anymore, because they're running the ball a little bit better. So
I love Kenneth Walker props too, though.
When Seattle's done pretty much kind of what you would expect they've done.
Kenneth Walker has held up to his end of the bargain here on the props the last few weeks. So I'm happy with Walker and what he's done. Here's a prop for you. This is one that I like, kind of the best of the week. The injury concerns worry me a little bit because he's been banged up, but he's gonna be back now. And I think because of the lack of success by A.J. Dillon, that you could get a heavy dose of Aaron Jones here. And let's face it, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers aren't walking out of the tunnel up there in Mile High Stadium against the Broncos for the Packers. But I like Aaron Jones over 48.5 yards rushing against that bad Denver defense. I'd be willing to crank that up some more as well. Can the Packers get some good success out of Aaron Jones, and can they maybe light up the scoreboard here against Denver?
Well, I don't know about lighting up the scoreboard, because with the 2 things that you mentioned there, which I agree with, don't go with each other. If Aaron Jones is healthy, and I'd have to be a little more confident in how much he's going to play, because if he's first game back from a rather lengthy injury, and they've got Dillon. Is Dillon even healthy now? I think he's banged up a little bit. And he hasn't done much either when given the opportunity. Right. He has been. And that could be the Green Bay line. Part of that comes with, they've got in essence, a rookie quarterback, who's feeling his way, and he really would like to have relied more on a running game. But that, Green Bay's run the ball well because they've had Rodgers at quarterback. You've had to stop Rodgers. You had to stop their passing game. And because of that, they've run the ball effectively, and he swings the ball to his back effectively. That's not true anymore. Now nobody goes into the game thinking, we got to stop Love. Now they go into the game thinking, we got to take Green Bay's running game away from them. And Jones has been injured, and Dillon's been banged up. But ideally, they would go into this game thinking, exactly what people thought they were going to be doing this year. We got to get our running game going. We got to swing the ball to the back. And so, but like I said, I'm not confident. I'd like to see somebody who knows what we're talking about, project how much is Jones going to play this week? How much is Dillon going to play this week? And because that's going to make the biggest difference here. If they're going to split carries, then it's, can Jones really get to 50 yards if he's only going to carry the ball 8 times? I'd love, and because like I said, you don't get rushing yards with the short passes that he catches, and he's always good at catching 4 or 5 of those. But if it's something where he's healthy, he's 100%, he's a go this week, and then you could project, okay, against a bad team, now we're talking about 12 to 14 carries minimum. He gets 12 to 14 carries, he's going to go over 50. And especially if the coach is talking about him being fully healthy, because we're going to need a couple of 12, 15-yard runs in there, to make things comfortable for us. So that,
and we can't forget about how bad the Denver defense is too.
Yeah. Well, if I heard that, I would be, I'd be much more confident that that's the way this game's going to go, because if Green Bay is running on all cylinders, that's the way they want to play. And especially in a game like this, where if Green Bay's going, they should win this game, and they should be able to do it in the style that they want to do it, and that is with a heavy dose of both of those guys, running and pass catching.
If you have to pick one or the other to win, I mean, you're getting held up here. Give me Green Bay or Denver. Which one are you going to take?
Well, how can you go with Denver?
Right.
I mean, I just think that Green Bay, Green Bay is, they've got to think that they're still in the playoff race, the way the NFC is going. Denver, there's more talk about them, excuse me, tanking and getting the number 1 pick in the draft, and you're drafting the USC quarterback. I think that they're done for the season. They're, in disarray. Guys are wanting out of there, or are they trading Jerry Jeudy? I mean, there's just so many things going on there that's just not conducive to playing, good football, especially when a team comes in that this is a big game for Green Bay. If Green Bay is going to get into the playoff chase, and maybe that's unrealistic, but if they're going to get into the playoff chase, this is a game they absolutely positively got to have. And if they're healthy, then this is a game that they really, really should win. So, I mean, picking the winner of this game, I would say with 75% certainty that Green Bay has to be the pick here.
I agree with that completely. Okay, our last game. Are the Vikings the perfect remedy for the 49ers after a loss here on Monday night? 7 points is the spread here that you need to lay on the road. Obviously, no Justin Jefferson for the Vikings.
I don't think this game's going to be as easy as certainly that line would indicate. I mean, I don't understand why Minnesota's getting a full touchdown at home, and Minnesota's not a bad team.
Everyone's going to bet on the 49ers too, and with the public trying to win their money back for the week. Is you have your choice with the Vikings or the Niners. Everyone's going to want to take the 49ers here.
Yeah, but they're not, the 49ers are not a high scoring team, and so it's not with them. It's if you're going to cover a full touchdown in a game like that, you'd like a team that's going to score in the 30s, maybe the upper 30s, and that way you got a safety net in case Minnesota, which they're fully capable of, somehow finds a way to score 21 points. The 49ers are much more of a team that's going to score their 24, 27, that's on a their average or above average day. But that, is a good chance McCaffrey's not playing in this game. Deebo Samuel got injured last week, and I don't think he's anything of a sure thing this week. This is not a team that's got a whole lot of offensive depth. You've got Deebo and you've got Ayuk. You got two good wideouts, but you don't even really have a third legitimate wideout. And if Deebo's out, that leaves you with one wideout. You got George Kittle, who does take on a bigger role when the wideouts aren't playing. So I would expect a bigger game from him, but he's been very inconsistent and he's used a lot in the running game. And you've got basically the MVP of the league, who if he's not in there, then all of a sudden, to me, this game becomes much more of I give the 49ers a slight edge kind of game. I think because Minnesota is kind of the opposite. I mean, Minnesota is they've got their MVP is out as well. Yeah, but they've got two really good wideouts, remaining that can still play, and they've got one of the best. We talked about the tight end, one of the best pass catching tight ends going. They've got what you're going to get from Minnesota, and that's going to be 40, 45 passes, and the 49ers pass defense is not elite necessarily. So I think Minnesota can hang in this game. I think Minnesota can win this game. I think I read somewhere, hard to believe, that the 49ers haven't won a game at Minnesota since like 1993.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is crazy.
I mean, they're coming off a loss at Cleveland, in a game where Cleveland didn't have their quarterback, and so it was, that wasn't a pretty loss for them in any way. They didn't have much going offensively in that game. Now, granted, Cleveland's a great defensive team, but you fly back home, you got a short week, you got a bunch of guys hurt, even Trent Williams, is banged up, and now you fly back, to the Midwest for another game, a spot where you haven't had a lot of success. You're not really one of these track meet teams that are going to, play at their best on turf. I don't think that, that there's nothing about this game that says 49ers are going to bounce back big time in this game. I mean, they're not playing the Bears, this week. They're not playing, some bad team. I mean, this game we're at Indianapolis, okay, I could understand where, throw out, every other angle. They'll find a way to crush a team like Indianapolis. This is a halfway decent, Minnesota team, certainly comparable or better than, the Rams team that the 49ers went on the road, kind of a similar thing. They went on the road, out of their element a little bit, and had a tough time beating the Rams. I don't know. And that was when they were healthy. They're missing key people here. So is this the perfect remedy? No, like I said, give me Indianapolis. Give me Houston. Give me some other Midwestern town. This is not wouldn't be my first choice.
And 45.5 points is probably too high then, right?
Well, again, I wouldn't say that. I mean, okay. Minnesota 45.5. It's almost like, oh boy, that sounds way too low for a Minnesota game, given their defense. So no, I can't go there. But I do think this game's going to, be close. I do think that, it could be a field goal game. It could be a 6-point game. I just can't imagine it being a 10-point game.
All right. Anything we haven't talked about? Any prop? Anything fantasy? Anything that you're going to try to keep your eye on that we might not have talked about for this week 7?
No. I mean, I think that it's like you said. I mean, there's 6 teams missing this week, and you look at the games, and we talked about the early starts. And oh my God,
Yeah, it just has a weird feel to it, doesn't it? It just does.
Right. And I mean, from a fantasy perspective, it's almost like, all right, we're missing a third of the teams, and another third are playing in these really ugly early games. So throw all of those teams out of the equation. The 6 are on a bye, and the 6 or the 12 teams that are playing the early games. It's like there's 18 teams that might as well be on a bye this week. It's almost like how are you going to be successful this week in fantasy? Well, you better have a lot of guys playing in these late games, or on the Sunday night game, or the Monday night game. If you're looking out there and you're looking at your opponent, and oh man, he's got 5 guys playing in the early games, or even heck, he had he had Ridley already this week. You lucked into that. It's like, please show me that my opponent's got 4 or 5 guys playing in these early games, and I'll feel a lot better about my chances. So, I cannot, overstate how much I'm looking forward to the Sunday night game. I think this is, and again, not just from a fantasy perspective, which, if I did have fantasy guys in that game, which I'll have Brown in that game, but I traded away 2 of those guys last week. Don't remind me of that. But just from a pure football standpoint, that it doesn't get any better than this.
All right, so the things we want to avoid this week are the 300 passer yard parlays of Gardner Minshew, Bagnett from the Bears. The list goes on and on. Okay, Dave, have a good one, man. Appreciate it. Enjoy the games, and hopefully we'll get some better matchups next week. Doesn't look like the slate's that much better,
right. We talked about, there are some attractive things, and again, especially in that it's rare that the best game of the week is also the best game, from a wagering standpoint.
Right.
But I just can't imagine. And there's got to be, 15 different ways to take advantage of the Philly Miami game in terms of the number of points that are going to be scored, the length of the longest touchdown, how many points are going to be scored by quarter. I mean, there's just so many different ways you can play games and parlay games these days that if you really have a real strong feel for how a game is going to go, and then you just tailor all of your plays, presuming you know what you're talking about. So it's like, well, I'm going to parlay the over in the first quarter to the parlay to the second quarter, to the third quarter, to the fourth quarter, to the over in the game. I'm just so confident that every quarter is going to be high scoring. And so then instead of, well, I had the over at whatever, even money or minus 120, so for a $100 investment, I want $100 back. But by parlaying, every quarter over to the total, the final total over, now all of a sudden you've got a 5-leg parlay. That's basically all the same, you're betting the same thing. And this, bang, and you end up with this pinball game that we're projecting. And next thing you've got a parlay that's, paying you 15 to 1 or whatever you would get for a 5 to 1. So anyway, man, it's just rare that you get one of these games that looks like it's so easy to predict, that there's going to be, will there be a pass play over 50 yards? Yes. Will there be a running play over 40 yards? Yes. Will there be will there be a 100-yard receiver? Yes. Will there be 200-yard receivers? Yes. I mean, there's just so many different ways it's just so different these days than from the old days where you basically had 2 options. You had the point spread and you had the total. Now you've got almost literally 100 different ways you can go on these games. Heck, we're talking about projecting the final score, in the Pittsburgh Rams game. So
right.
It's while the games might be ugly, doesn't take a whole, it doesn't take 12 good games in order to make it a profitable weekend. Just focus your attention on one or two things, and sometimes that works out better for you.
Right. All right. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. All right, Dave. We appreciate it, man. Enjoy the rest of the weekend and enjoy the games. We'll talk next week.
All right. You'll do.
All right.
Get that Wembayana accident.
Yeah. 80-1 MVP. We will be back right after this. Dependable Solutions can provide all voiceover services for your advanced audio production needs. Think of us as an inexpensive option, no matter what the size of the project is. From one-word cameos to full script productions, contact Dependable Solutions at 757-354-5517.
Know your gambling limits. Don't ever bet what you can't cover. Wagering on sports is only fun when you do it the right way. Not every bet will win. When you get on a bad run, know it and avoid trouble. Know your gambling limits.
All right, the round robin resumes here on a Sunday morning, 9:43 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Here on the East Coast, 10/22/23 is your date for this NFL Week 7, Nephew Dave, as we have approached or are approaching rapidly the halfway mark of the season. What do you think about that so far?
Already seems like it's flown by again, as it usually does.
Man, it flies. Dude, it'll be Thanksgiving here before we know it. Halloween this week.
Right.
So that's the first. I always kind of range it with my birthday, and then a month later it's Halloween, and then there's Thanksgiving, and then there's Christmas. Then next thing you know, it's playoff football time, and then next thing you know, the Super Bowl's over with, and you're a couple weeks away from springtime. So kind of nuts when you think about it that way. Still a lot of football left to play here, and we shall dissect it here on the round robin. All right, let's do some Survivor. I think this is an easy one. You want to go down the list, Dave? I'll give you the yay or nay on if I would use this team or not. I think Seattle is probably fair game for most people today if they have. Well, they should have.
Right. So let's start with the Browns and the Colts.
Nope.
Bills and the Patriots.
Nope.
Bills, if you have them.
Better chance to use them when New England plays at Buffalo.
Right.
But, yeah, I get it. If you have to use them, you could, I guess.
Washington and the Giants.
No.
Lions and the Ravens.
No.
Raiders and the Bears.
Nope.
And I think I would actually use the Raiders if I was still alive in my pool.
Really?
I think this might be a spot for them.
Wow.
3-3. You have the injury there in Chicago with the quarterback. So I think this could be
the Raiders
game.
catch a lot of flack, but, they've won some games here.
Right.
It's not like they're too sloppy. They're 500. Del Grande thinks they're terrible still. And a fraud at 3-3. We'll see today. We'll see what happens.
I think that the Raiders are a little bit better team than the Bears. So if I had them, I would go with the Raiders, Steve.
Okay.
Falcons and the Bucks.
Nope.
Steelers and the Rams.
Nope.
The one you just talked about, Cardinals and the Seahawks, you think is the play?
Yes. Actually, I did re-enter in a Survivor on one of the websites, and we'll start from scratch. Week 7, I figured to give me something to root for in that regard. So with a clean slate, with no teams picked, my pick is Seattle for today, with everyone else's probably as well. But go ahead.
Packers and the Broncos.
Nope.
Chiefs and the Chargers.
I've used the Chiefs to beat the Chargers before, and it's worked. It definitely has worked. So I'll avoid that today, just because of what I've said in previous weeks with the Chiefs. Just being a little bit of I don't know if disappointment's the right word. Something just doesn't seem quite right.
Just not quite what they usually are.
Yeah, it's their wide receivers for sure. I can pinpoint it, but I don't know. I'm not so sure the Chiefs are the best team in the league. That's for sure. Go ahead.
Now, Steve, what about this? With the Chargers being 2-3, knowing that they're going to fall behind and the playoffs could be in danger, if they lose another game or two, do you get a better effort out of them today to maybe upset the Chiefs?
I think they can win. Absolutely. I think they're a live dog to win that game today, and I don't have an exact thought on it per se. I think I do have the Chiefs. All right, we talk about El Cheapos, like a $2 bet or something. So I do have a midweek El Cheapo bet where I do have it's literally $2 and like 31 cents or something like that to win 1,600, and it's like a 10-team parlay. And I was just moving some lines around a little bit. And the Chiefs were one I took, but I moved them down to -2.5.
Okay.
So I took the Chiefs to win by a field goal, not by the 5.5. So that's my one El Cheapo angle there with that. Am I fully committed to that? No, not really.
All right, the Dolphins and the Eagles, probably the game of the day.
No Survivor.
All right, last one, 49ers at the Vikings.
Pass. The Niners are in a bad spot, I think, maybe potentially Monday night. It's going to be loud for one. This is do or die for the Vikings at this point.
Right.
They still it's the NFC. The playoffs are wide open. In fact, we should almost kind of look at that
Well, you drop down to 2
in
and
that
5.
regard.
That still doesn't make you feel very good.
It doesn't make you feel very good at 2 and 5. Let's see how they are right now if it were to end. The Vikings would be so in the wild card. We're going to take 6 teams, correct?
I think it's 7.
7 teams now in the wild card. Yes, you're right. Okay, so the playoff picture is a mess in that regard. So the Cowboys are 4-2. So here are your division leaders right now: San Fran, the Eagles, the Lions. All are 5-1. Tampa at 3-2 is your NFC South division leader. If you didn't know that, okay. I need to look at the standings more. These are actually kind of fascinating.
Right.
Dallas 4-2, and then your playoff teams right now would be Seattle is now. Some of these teams have buys too, so the records are weird. Seattle's 3-2. The Rams are 3-3, so they're the last team in right now. So figure 500 is your watermark to get to. The Commanders, Falcons are both 3-3. Saints 3-4. Packers 2-3. Vikings 2-4. So Vikings win this, then they're right around that 500 mark. And as everything will kind of reshuffle here and through the buys in the next few weeks, I mean, that keeps them in contention. So this,
right,
maybe not necessarily even the Vikings' last stand. I mean, they probably have a couple more stands they can make. If 500 is going to be your playoff mark in the NFC, and it seems like that's the case right now. But yeah, the Rams would be a playoff team, and the Seahawks and the Cowboys, all 3 of those would be your wild cards. Commanders, Falcons, Saints, Packers, Vikings, all knocking on the door. Then it drops off. You have, I mean, the Bears, even the Bears at 1-5, you know, you win 6 games in a row or something crazy like that. Next thing you know, you're in a playoff.
Right.
And your Redskins did that with Marty Schottenheimer too, didn't they? Then they won the last 6 games of the season to make the playoffs.
And they're
after starting 0-6 as well.
Right.
After
so
starting
another big game today for us. You know, I mean, we're only halfway, so it's you know,
right,
not done yet, but knocking on the door, Steve. You're really, you know, just one spot out, really.
The AFC's no crazier. Let's just look at that real quick. So your division leaders now are Kansas City and Miami, both 5-1. Jacksonville 5-2. So everyone who has those Jacksonville to win the division props are feeling a little bit better now in the last few weeks with Jacksonville. Baltimore is 4-2. After that, Bills 4-2 in the playoffs. Steelers would be in at 3-2 because they've had a bye. They played 1 less game. Cleveland 3-2 would be in. And then you have all of these teams at 3-3. The Colts, the Texans, the Jets, the Raiders, who you mentioned, who could be 4-3 about today's end. The Bengals, the Chargers are 2-3, so they'll be 3-3 if they can win. And not out of that division by any stretch. They'll just be 2 games back with the tiebreaker. And they'll play Kansas City again, so really can gain another game. They just if the Chargers can sweep the Chiefs, they need Kansas City to regress back 1 game over the course of the rest of the season. So the Chargers still a shot. They can win today to win that division. Tennessee 2-4. Denver, New England 1-5, 1-5. But 3-3 right now is your watermark for the AFC playoffs as well. There is no one who's out of this yet in the NFL.
No, not at all.
Carolina maybe at 0-6. But we just said it. The Redskins of Marty Schottenheimer started 0-6 and then went 6-0 to finish the season.
Crazier things
made the playoffs, and then they fired him. And he went to San Diego, I believe, right after that, and took them to the playoffs. The Washington fans were very upset at that time when they let Marty Schottenheimer go, Dave. I don't know if you might be a little too young for that era. Okay. Let's see here. Let's go down. We did Survivor. So Seattle for me. Who's your pick? If you have one.
I'll tell you what, Steve. I would roll with the Raiders today.
Okay. All right. There you go. Raiders for Nephew Dave to continue in fantasy. Actually, that should be kind of the screaming scenario there. All right, I guess let's get to the slate. Browns and the Colts. First one up, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Browns now up to 3.5 and 40.5 in this game. It looks like Deshaun Watson is a go. Let's see if I have him listed here. Yep, Deshaun Watson. Over under 225.5 passing yards for him. Minshew is 197.5. Kind of a low point total. The Cleveland defense has been fantastic. They've been number 1 in the league overall. I had some good stats here. Let's see if I can pull those up. Anyway, whatever their defense is this a... Yeah, let's see here. Reshuffle. And the thing is, these are out of order, unfortunately. Like, why would they do this? Cleveland has allowed...
I don't see the Colts scoring very
game.
many points today, Steve.
I don't like this page. That's what I'm kind of getting at, Dave. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is going to have to try to fight a good defense to try to get some yardage. I don't know. I mean, the back end of Cleveland's too. I mean, Minshew to turn the ball over, interceptions, Cleveland defensive touchdown maybe as well today. What does that pay? Let's see. I just don't have a lot of faith in the Colts being very good today, but I could be completely wrong about this. Taylor's plus 125 anytime touchdown. Amari Cooper is 2-1. Kareem Hunt plus 185. Jerome Ford plus 125. Cleveland defense is only plus 420 to get a defensive touchdown. That is low. You never see it that low, especially compared to Indianapolis. Their defense is 8-1. 2 touchdowns for the Browns defense, I think, is actually in the market today, but I don't know if you're getting paid good. Yeah, 42-1. That's not the worst. So I would rather bet that happen than just the 1, to be honest.
Right.
If you're going to give me 1, go ahead and give me 2 at 42-1. I think this could be a long day for the Colts. Just like you said. I could see the Browns winning this game actually by double digits.
21-3.
Yeah, something like that. Or
6, 21-6.
I'm wondering if the Colts can get a little bit more at home, like 13, and can you get to like 31 with Cleveland maybe? I think you might be able to. So I'm wondering if this is going to be a sneaky overplay. I wouldn't do any kind of alternate over, I don't think. But don't be shocked if Cleveland plays good enough to crawl this game over 40.5 either. I went ahead and took Amari Cooper to score today. He's my player prop, so I'm going to lean on him for the touchdown in this Browns game. I don't know. What else do you got, David?
So, Steve, I'm going opposite course from you here. I am going to do an alt total to the downside of under 35 is paying a plus 189.
So you get 2-1 for under 35.
I love that.
Points. I think, David, I actually have something in there as well with an alt. I definitely played like all your unders, all these teams that should be under. I definitely played one just to kind of cover that basis.
And
as an El Cheapo,
not playing the hook here either. I'm gonna leave it right at 35. In case it lands right on that, then you can at least get the void from it.
I'm going to take Cooper because he just seems to be pretty consistent for them, actually. And he does make big plays still. Seasoned veteran. He has a good year. Watson likes him as well.
Right.
So I'm going to try to see if that combination just can't hook it up today as well. 2 touchdowns for Amari Cooper pays well. That is, I believe, 17-1. 18-1 right now. Other 2 touchdown scores, Jonathan Taylor, 8-1, Jerome Ford plus 750, Kareem Hunt, 13-1, Deion Jackson, 13-1, Zach Boss, 16-1, David Njoku, 40-1. That's actually not a bad one. You get a tight end day. It is National Tight End Day.
It is.
Did you know that?
Yes, it is.
So Njoku would be a good one to throw in there for that. I'm going to have to play around with that one. For sure. All right, Dave. So give me the Browns as the best play on the board here. I'll take Amari Cooper 2. And you're going to creep with an alternate under?
I'm going under 35.
All right. So that's that for that game. All right. We'll get right to your game. How about this? Go ahead and give the state of the union of your Washington Commanders. They win last week in Atlanta. Could have done a little bit better for me. I had alternate overs, and I had the Commanders to win by a little bit more. But I was pleased with their effort and knowing I was, for the most part, right in how they would handle things down there and winning that game. And I'm going to expect the same thing today, to be honest. I think they just have better talent across the board than the Giants. I think it's simple as that in their respective positions. I think the wide receiving unit's better. Tight end may not be better, but he's playing better. Waller, just with all the injuries, you just haven't seen him get going yet for the Giants. Tyrod Taylor, our boy here from the 757, is the quarterback for the Giants. So he is the hometown kid here. And I do like me some Tyrod. But Sam Howell has something going on. His arm's cooking a little bit. And the Commanders, this is a divisional game. It's on the road, hostile environment for sure. Might have a little bit of wind as well. But I could see that Washington handled themselves well in Philadelphia. So they can handle themselves well in Philadelphia. I think they can handle themselves well here in the Meadowlands. Go ahead and give me your state of the union of the Commanders. And I'll say this, people, if you don't know this, because I said this to Nephew David and Anthony earlier in the week, that your Commanders, who are right there in the mix of things, and Philadelphia has a very tough schedule, as do the Cowboys coming up, your Commanders to somehow sneakily win that NFC East, I would not rule that out, at 28-1 odds right now. 28-1. All right, Dave, let it rip on your Commanders.
Right, Steve. So really gritty kind of win there in Atlanta last week. And something tells me, Steve, that just because it is the divisional game, it might take another kind of gritty performance. Sam Howell with 3 touchdown passes last week. Hoping to kind of get more of the same, kind of take advantage of the struggling Giants team. And Steve, really, we got to come out, start fast, something that has been an issue for us. It's better to play ahead of the game than be behind it. That's for sure. So, Steve, it's going to take a nice start. No dumb mistakes. Defense needs to tighten up a little bit. And, if you can go 4-3 today, Steve, then you're still in the thick of it. So it starts today. You need a little bit of luck there this evening. Hopefully the Dolphins can take down the Eagles, and then things will get interesting. So, Steve, takeaways for today are quick start and limiting the mistakes.
How about plus 290 to make the playoffs? So there's a good number there.
Well, one game out, you're in, it takes 7 teams to get in. You're at number 8 right now. I don't see why that's, not a possibility.
Other oddball divisional winners who are within striking distance. I'll just go through some of those prices on a few of those teams real quick since we're on here, and we probably need to refocus on some of these divisional odds after a few weeks. But here you go. The Jets, a couple games out of first place, paid 14-1 to win the AFC East. You're getting the Bengals at plus 420 to win the AFC North. That's a good number. The Browns plus 240 is still probably a good number for them. The Steelers just don't seem like they're – so again, something's off with them. I just think at the end of the day, if you're going to, make me have to go to war with the Bengals or the Steelers, I'm going to go to war with Cincinnati,
Right.
So the Steelers plus 550, Houston plus 430 to win their division. Titans slipping plus 700 for them to win. Colts 8-1. Chargers are 6-1. We talked about that path. I mean, they just need to. It starts today. They win today, and then they win against the Chiefs again, and then they hope they just get a 1-game regression by Kansas City, and then they could actually get the tiebreaker there. But 6-1 for them. Your Raiders 17-1 to win the AFC West. You can't count them out yet. Still within striking distance with a win today. And if Kansas City loses, they're really just a game back. So think of it that way. Eagles minus 180, Cowboys plus 160, Commanders plus 2,800. That's the number that sticks out to me that we need to jump on. In the NFC North, Detroit minus 600, Packers 10-1, Vikings 10-1, Bears 100-1. NFC South is a log jam with the Buccaneers, Saints, and Falcons all right around plus 200. The Buccaneers, the slight favorite at plus 165. Carolina, long shot 55-1. And San Fran minus 850 for them right now. Seattle plus 950. Again, Seattle wins and San Fran takes a loss Monday night. You're getting a good number with Seattle right now. Rams plus 2,200. If they get a win, I mean, they're right in the mix of things too. And the Cardinals 400-1. So let's just do one quick long shot parlay, and it's just a learning lesson for you people out there. Take some shots on some division teams where you're just getting priced in at this moment in time with these. So you just go ahead and roll with it. And if you're going to throw in a complete, you can round robin these as well. So you can hit 3 of the 4 or 2 of the 4 and play it this way. But right now, a 4 division winner of underdogs to come back, all within 2 games of first place. Keep that in mind here. Are the Jets 14-1, Bengals plus 420, Commanders 28-1, Rams 22-1. Nephew Dave, I'll let you guess. How much do you think that $5 parlay pays?
Oh, $6,200.
$260,000. So you're just telling me that I need 4 teams, and anything can happen with injuries too, right?
Right.
To teams above you. So you're just telling me I need 4 teams to jump 2 spots in the standings and have a chance. I might have to play this, to be honest, before today, because these numbers will change if they all do get a win. If we do round robin style, if you just do $2 on the 3-game parlays, you'll still make $8,000 if 3 of the 4 hit. All right. And if you just do, let's just put $1 on the 2-game parlays, you'll come out with still a good profit of about $300. So all this would be a 6, 14, $16 bet. Actually, $21 bet. Is that right? Yep, $21 would win you about $300,000.
Can't be mad at that.
Well, Bengals have a good shot. You got to figure they do. What if San Fran goes into the crapper with these injuries? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, they're banged up.
And Stafford keeps rolling with these receivers.
Right.
All right. Because Gino, you can't trust him. All right. The Rams already beat Seattle as well. Right. So think of that.
Absolutely.
Philly and Dallas have a tough schedule. Your boys just need to keep winning. Not that your schedule is the greatest.
Right.
And you know what? Maybe these teams in the AFC East start to cannibalize each other a little bit today. And the Dolphins take a loss to Philly and the Jets get a win, well, the Jets are on the bye, so they're already going to win if they'll improve without even playing.
Right.
If Miami can lose tonight. So fascinating numbers to look at those in the division. All right. So that's a good little sidetrack, actually, as we are behind here on the round robin. If you're joining us late, I had to do a complete system reboot just to get the mic to catch. As simple as that, but that took a few minutes. So we got behind from the get-go. Okay, next game on the slate. I didn't give my pick. I'm going to take the Commanders, and I'm going to take Robinson. I'm going to stick with Robinson to score again. I like what he's been doing for me. In fact, I might take him for some rushing yards. I think the Giants are capable to be ran on as well. But give me some Brian Robinson. Throw in some Terry McLaurin for extra flavor as well. But I think your team can win this game, Dave, by double digits.
It could creep to the over too if the Giants can
It's
get
down
just
to
a little bit at home.
It's down to 36. Again, don't doubt this is 31-13
Right.
Commanders, and you do get that over. I can see that. So let's see how that goes. All right, Falcons and Buccaneers. Buccaneers less than a field goal, -2.5, 37.5. Low over under here because the Bucs have been a dead under team. The Falcons not so much, although they've been playing under. You feel like they want to go over. But can Desmond Ridder have success? The Buccaneers are pretty stout in that defense. Although Philly did run on him pretty well with DeAndre Swift. So maybe they can get a push. I don't know. Something weird's about this game, Dave. I could go either way here.
I really could.
I could go under or I could go over. I'm not too sure what to think. I have futures on Tampa Bay, so I think they're the right side. But I had someone that I respect really, really like Atlanta this week. I don't know how people keep liking Atlanta. Man, serious. I mean, it has been a nonstop Atlanta fest since the beginning of August, I feel like, with people respecting the Falcons. But the Buccaneers at home today, nice weather, a little humid, it looks like, sunny skies. I'd give me over 37.5. Let's go for it, man. I don't see this game getting buckled down to be a 14-10 affair. I think there's at least talent on both sides of the ball. So we'll take a shot with the over here. Why not? And 30s, we need some overs. We need some kind of excitement in this underridden run that we've had. At some point, the tide will turn from all these unders that we've been having, and we're going to get one of these 37.5s to pop off with an over. But you know what? You get 5-1 odds if both these teams can get to 50 points. You can't tell me this can't be a 28-24 game somehow.
Right.
I mean, nice day, Tampa Bay. So that's my angle there, Dave. Go ahead and tell me why you like the under now.
Actually, Steve, this is one of those games that, man, it's probably going to have to find its way on the TV, just because that's,
Oh, yeah.
not many options.
Well,
today,
I think I'd rather watch this than Cleveland and
the Colts.
I think that's the one that gets left off the card, unfortunately.
So, Steve, I'm going to keep this simple, going right to the props. If we're going to go for an over, I think both of these teams can score a rushing touchdown, and you get plus 170 for that. So that's going to be added to my
Wow, that's
parlay.
good. Okay, I like that.
I'm not going to worry.
Good angle.
Who's going to do it, how they're going to do it. I just want both teams to score a rushing touchdown, and then we can leave this one alone. It's the way I feel.
All right, 10-4. I can get down with that. I like that. Anything else I would look at here? We'll go through just some of the prop numbers real quick. Maybe we'll get the Ant-Man to catch up with us at some point as well. The biggest mystery in all of broadcasts is usually where is the Ant-Man? Let's see here.
Is he coming into the lounge today?
Yes, he'll be here. He will be here for the games. 2 touchdown scores today. Rashid White plus 850. Bijan Robinson plus 950. Evans 13-1. Chris Godwin 23-1. Tyler Algier 24-1. Drake London 27-1. If anyone's, let's see if anything really sticks out as a good number. Jonnu Smith has started to get involved with Atlanta as well. He's plus 470 to get a touchdown. Tampa defense is plus 650. Cordero Patterson, we haven't seen him yet, 9-1. Will he show up? Yeah, Dave, this is just a weird game, but I'll take a shot on the low-hanging 37.5 just to go over. It's a nice day. I don't think these teams are that defense-centric,
right,
that they're going to completely slow down the other anyway. All right, anything else with you?
No, Steve, I'm taking one thing away from that, and then I looked at some touchdown scores yesterday evening, but just really nothing that jumps out at me here, Steve. So let's take a prop away, as I think that's probably going to be the best bet, just because I think both these teams could run the ball.
Right. Okay. I do like that. Rushing touchdown, both teams plus 170. Okay, Bills and the Patriots. I don't know why the money's coming back on New England right now. Plus 7.5 is the spread, down from 8.5. The home point Patriots getting a ton of points at home, over under 40.5. The cardinal rule in all of football wagering is you never lay more than a touchdown on the road with the road team. But here is your state of the union of the New England Patriots, and it's not going to be pretty. In fact, I should just start cussing and screaming and yelling. And maybe give me a week or two, and I'm gonna prep for that. I'll come up with a real good one once we're 1-7 after losing today to Buffalo, and then to Miami next week.
Oh boy,
we'll be 1-7 after that. It's pathetic. There's no other way to put it with New England. We can't kick field goals. The punter's terrible, although they were both a little bit better last week. And that's what they're trying to do, get better every day, they say. Mac's been awful. People want to blame receivers for drop ball, but the receivers aren't good either. I mean, they're just no one good. There's no good product out there. The defense, promising at times, yes, but they are missing pieces as well. Injuries do not help them at all there. Let's get some dynamic, let's do something fun on offense. Maybe let's go 5 wide and start trying to sling the ball around a little bit more or something like that. Switch things up. It's just the same boring brand of football that I've watched with New England. And quite frankly, it's pretty predictable at this point if you're a defensive coordinator. So the Patriots, that's an indictment on everyone. I mean, it has just been horrendous. They're as bad as it gets in sports. If you've been betting them, you've been getting killed. If you've been betting against them, you're making out like a bandit. If you're betting all their prop unders, you're rich beyond words right now. And they're playing the Bills, where, it might be windy in Foxborough. It's going to be a little tough for New England, for the Bills today. The Bills were sloppy against the Giants. Yes. Bills sloppy against the Jaguars. Yes. But when they're on their A game, they are really, really good. And somehow New England brings out their A game every time as well. So I just don't know how this isn't another bloodbath, to be honest. 7.5 looks way too cheap for me. I fully expect Buffalo to win this game by 3 touchdowns today. The low over-under of 41.5 is completely live for the over. I know everyone wants to bet the under here as well. But, when Buffalo has 35 points and New England backs into their 13 points or whatever, then you're going to wish you had the over then. And you know what? Maybe New England does get a little bit of good karma going for them on offense. Dave, they didn't cover because they gave up a safety last week with the point spread. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, audience, last week down by 2 points as 2.5-point underdogs. At the end of the game, they give up a safety. So they lose by 4 points, and the Raiders actually take the money home. So if you were a Patriot fan and had the 2.5 points, or even worse, you bought the line up to 3 and paid extra juice, you got screwed by losing by 4 on the safety. That's just the stupid stuff that they do. I just don't see any different outcome of what we've seen here. I'd need to see Buffalo play better. I swear I think Buffalo is a little bit better than what they've shown here the last couple of weeks. They got some issues. They got some identity issues themselves, I guess. But at least they have an identity of some sort. The Patriots have zero identity. So bloodbath here in Foxborough. Give me the Bills. Give me the over. Only because, if it doesn't go over, it's because it's 38-0.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
41-0, which I've seen that before. I've lost the over under 41.5 in a Dolphins Colts game where the score is 41-0 as a final, Dave. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? You tell me. That's it, Patriot Nation. We're speechless. It's a start from scratch scenario. I would say We have a defense, and then really figure we're starting from the bottom because we are at the bottom right now.
Well, Steve, one thing that if it does be, continue to be that poor of a season and, your record ends up with somewhere around 3 wins, you could be in the sweepstakes to go grab Caleb Williams or somebody like that.
I don't even think I want him. I was saying I want Michael Penix until last night when Washington barely beat Arizona State as 4 touchdown favorites and only won by 7. I kind of like Bo Nix, man.
It's going to be
I like the Oregon guy.
QB heavy.
Yeah, I don't know about the USC quarterback. They lose too many games for me that I don't want him. I just don't want him. Don't want him. I don't want him. But there are definitely quarterbacks out there I would take a shot at. Yes. I was going to say I like the Carolina quarterback. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily his fault last night, Carolina losing the UVA.
Right.
Because his offensive line let him down. I was seeing him get blindsided, pummeled left and right. As my Tar Heels 49ers Dolphins ticket goes up in flames.
Unfortunately,
yeah. But yeah, what do you got here, Dave?
I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills to win both halves at plus 135.
See, that's a great bet. You can parlay that with your 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right.
I am right now. Yep.
Okay, I like that. That's pretty good. All right, so you'll do that. Bills to win at halftime. Bills to win for the game. That's a plus number. I don't see why you don't do that. Yeah, that's a layup. I'm going to take Diggs for touchdowns.
I think I had him for 2 when we get there.
I'm going to try him again. I've been on Diggs a little bit. I'm going to stick with him. Allen definitely is trying to get him the ball and keep him happy. I can't say the same thing about Dawson Knox. Gabe Davis paying 22-1 for his 2 touchdowns. Diggs 7-1. Ramondre Stevenson 14-1. Ramondre, where have you been? Josh Allen 14-1. Zeke 22-1. Zeke just doesn't get the ball enough to get 2 touchdowns. I feel like Dawson Knox 41-1. Hunter Henry 60-1. Yeah, so if we're gonna do national tight end today, I guess I'll take Dawson Knox at 41-1 in my tight end little prop parlay that I'll do. All right. Anything else here, Dave? Buffalo whitewashes these guys.
Yeah, I think so, Steve.
All right. So next game on the board. They want me to log in. Stand by. Relogging back into the work. All right. So next game on the slate. Oh, here you go. Your Raiders and the Bears, 2.5, 38.5. Go ahead and make your case for the Raiders again.
Yeah, Steve, I just, we took that ugly loss to the Bears. So, you can be like, oh, how's he going to say that? But, Steve, I just think that they're the better team. And now you have that quarterback, Bagnett, playing. He's starting his first game.
Dave Del Grande says he has the chance to be the worst quarterback ever.
Well, you saw him last week. I mean, it's a really tough spot to be in, but when you're asking somebody like that to come out, I think it just really, really gives the Raiders a chance here to get on the right side of the record here and go 4-3. They didn't show much in that game. Fields gets hurt. They've had a hell of a time moving the ball. And I think we probably just see a little bit more of the same here, Steve. I think this is a big spot for the Raiders. You could probably push that up, I think, to 5.5 on the spread is something that I think I would look at.
All right, let's see here. All right, I'm locked into my divisional future bet. I just put $8 down to win $177,989. How about that? That is division future props of Jets, Bengals, Chargers, and I can't remember the other one. Let's see here. Raiders and Bears for me, 38.5. Oh my God!
I actually do kind of want to see this game.
Well, I have this part. I did put this in, so I do have some unders because I'm going to follow the under motif, and I'm going to throw this one in that category. Okay, but I don't know, man. Something weird is going to happen in this game, and it's not a lot of points. So, do we see something like 28-21 or something crazy like that? I don't know, man. I'm going to lean more under. Don't be shocked if these overs get blown away today. I'm just going to say these numbers are so low right now. It's a nice day in Chicago. There's no wind. Devontae Adams knows what it's like to play on that field. He could get 3 touchdowns today. We should have him on the touchdown scorer list.
We should.
Is what we should do, to be honest. I'm going to have to throw him in on there. So that's what I'll do. I'll look for Devontae Adams to score today because he's the man. He knows the Bears well. He's beating the hell out of them. In fact, he won me a huge bet, $6,500 against the Bears with 2 touchdowns. They had him. It was at the 1 yard line, and he was the only wide receiver out wide. They had it tucked in, and Aaron Rodgers dropped straight back. Quick little slant to the inside, wide open, easy. So we'll look for 2 of those today. 12-1 for Devontae Adams, 2 touchdowns. So you're getting paid nicely. Jacoby Myers is 24-1. National Tight End Day, if you want to take Cole Kmet, 36-1. DJ Moore, 21-1. Dante Foreman, 12-1. Josh Jacobs, plus 550. Yeah, give me a chance with Adams against the bad Bears defense. Now, healthier, they got some secondary personnel back.
Right.
But let's be honest, it's still going to be the Bears defense. So I'll lean on Devontae. I don't know. I smell a rat here somehow. I do love Del Grande's theory. Go under like 29.5 points at almost 5-1. You can definitely the one of 2 things is going to happen. This game's going to be 14-10, or literally it's going to be like 28-24.
Right.
All right, in a weird way. Or maybe the Raiders win a little bit harder, like you think. What's the most obscure outcome to you? A Bears blowout on offense?
Yeah, it would have to be
Like
the quarterback,
like the Bears that win like 35-14 or something like that.
That would, Steve, I would just forget everything that I thought I ever knew and just throw it all out the window.
All right, so for the stink factor alone, we'll have to have this game on the TV. All right, anything else with you here?
No, Steve, I think Adams is the good call. I don't think I have really much else for this. 5.5 for the Raiders is at plus 143, so number's still not exactly sexy, but I think it is coverable.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a Devontae Adams. I'm going to start a new play right now since I just did that other one. So we'll throw Devontae Adams in at 12-1 for 2 touchdowns. Okay, and we'll move forward. This is a good game, Dave. 1 o'clock, last of our 1 o'clock slate. With Detroit and Baltimore. Detroit is a 3-point dog in Baltimore, over under 43.5. The Ravens, the home favorite. Go ahead and give me your angle on this one first. I've been hearing a lot of Baltimore hype all week. So what do you think?
Let's see here. Let me open this up. It's being a little slow on me here. So
that's the nature of this broadcast today. From the get-go.
Slowdowns. Okay, Steve, let's see here. This will probably be, I think, the better of the 1 o'clock games for sure. I have fantasy Zay Flowers, so I would go with him for a touchdown, maybe even 2. He had one last week, so you got to think that maybe he's going to get more involved. I think you could, take him for another one. Let's go ahead and see. You're going to get a pretty decent number out of it when it opens up here. Yeah, Zay Flowers plus 205 in a game that could go over, Steve. We know that the Lions are probably going to get there, so you could go St. Brown certainly on that side. Plus 130 for 1. For 2. Pretty good numbers here for 2 actually today, Steve. Jahmyr Gibbs plus 650 over here for me. St. Brown at plus 850 for 2 of them. I like that. And if we wanted to go Zay Flowers, just to kind of see if Baltimore can keep up with the offense of the Lions, 16-1 for Zay Flowers for 2 today. So, Steve, that's probably how I would go in this one. Certainly an over is in play. Jackson and Goff to combine for 550 plus passing yards at plus 240. St. Brown and Flowers to combine for 150 receiving yards and 2+ touchdowns at plus 700. That's a weekly special that you might could get me behind.
All right. You'll talk me out to the Flowers because I'm looking for an oddball one. But I'll use the games we talked about. I'll use Devontae Adams for 2 touchdowns, Brian Robinson for 2 touchdowns, Dawson Knox for 2 touchdowns, Zay Flowers 2 touchdowns. What do you think the average 3-game parlay of that pays? Just 3 of the 4.
3 of the 4. Oh, Steve. You got me.
$6,500 off of one.
Okay, I was going to say 55, so I was going to be close to that.
Off of $1. Off of $1. So a $5 total bet is, and that's 2 touchdowns. 3 of the 4 will get you money. So Devontae Adams, Brian Robinson, Dawson Knox, Zay Flowers. 3 of those 4 average out to about $6,500 a hit. The higher juice with the longer shots are Knox and Flowers, Robinson the short shot. So no, those numbers are variables per the player in the payout. But the $1 4-legger, 102,257. That's what we do on this show. Invest the minimum for the maximum. So you're going to go put your $1 lottery ticket down there at 7-Eleven and try to win a free ticket back? Or do you want to try to win a 6-figure payout on just 4 players to get 2 touchdowns today? All very capable as well. Devontae Adams, Brian Robinson, Dawson Knox, Zay Flowers. All it's going to take is one of these quarterbacks to say, hey, man, I'm going to get you your touchdown.
Right.
National tight end day today. You don't think that's not coming up to someone like a Josh Allen against the Patriot team who will let Knox roam free in their secondary all day?
Sam Howell to Logan Thomas.
Yeah, exactly. So play your tight ends as well. I'll do that next. I like this game. This is a fun game for me too. It could be a good fantasy game. I'm going to look at Detroit to win this game, though. A lot of people were picking Baltimore. I'm going to lean with the Lions here. Tough test on the road. This is one game they're not going to win every game. They're going to lose some. So you think this is the kind of game that they will lose. But they've been sneaky good still. Even where people like them, they are still a little bit better than that, I think. I know they got the dinged up running back scenario, but Gibbs could break out today. He's paying well for the touchdowns, like you said. I got about plus 750. So that's good on my end. And then I don't know, passing prop wise, both of these guys are listed pretty low. So we're going to get good alternate passing numbers on Lamar and on Jared Goff. Lamar's straight up is 212 yards passing. Now, he's been going over his passing yards. I've been tracking that. To get to 275 today is plus 450 for Goff. To get alternate yards today, 275 is at plus 230, plus 410 if he gets to 300. I'm not so sure Goff gets that high, but he's been good. Right. Goff might be the second best quarterback in the league, to be honest, passing wise. I mean, that sounds crazy to say, but behind Patrick Mahomes, if you need to get one quarterback to start you a game to win, in a big scenario, Goff comes up at least in the conversation after that. He really does. I mean, you're going to throw Hurts in there, right? People will want to throw Herbert in there, but you can't trust him. I'll tell you that. I'll trust Goff over Herbert.
Right.
For sure right now. So good passing numbers, good numbers as well. This game is in the mid-40s. Del Grande thinks this is going to trend under. But Detroit's shown that they can put some points up here on the scoreboard as well this year. So I'm going to – and Baltimore too. So I'm going to lean over here, and I'm going to look for a green light on most of these props as well. So fun game. This should be a good one. Lions and Ravens. You got anything else on this?
No, Steve, but definitely one that as time gets and we start firing away here, this will be one that I'll certainly be looking forward to having on the TV for sure.
All right, and if we look at our tight ends for scores, 2 touchdown scorers here. Gibbs plus 750. Sam Laporta is 25-1. Mark Andrews 20-1 for him. I'll look for Laporta maybe. I don't know. I already have St. Brown and I got Flowers. So who do I throw in this tight end parlay? I guess Laporta if I like the Lions.
I would, yeah.
So I'll throw Laporta and Knox in here together. Right now, it's just a $1 parlay on Laporta and Knox to get 2 touchdowns. $1 pays 1,000. So that's an easy 2-teamer if you want to play it that way, people. So your possibilities are endless today, especially with these tight ends. Okay, let's go to the 4 o'clock games. As we are at 10:34 a.m. Eastern, we should be able to get out of here in the next 20 minutes or so. So back on schedule. We'll see if the Ant-Man catches up before we get out of here. We'll just get a quick recap from him on anything. Steelers-Rams, -3 for the Rams, 43.5. Again, another game I think could track over, to be honest. And should be a fun game. Good competitive game. So this is going to be one I'm going to focus on a little bit more here at 4 o'clock, especially now that I got a little bit of interest here on the Rams to win this NFC West. Here, man, and I see that's how the football is. I won from the Rams. I bet on the Rams to be the last winless team in the league preseason, and here I am taking them to win the division.
Just like that.
7 weeks later. So that just tells you how funny the NFL can be. So Rams 343.5. David, what are you looking at?
I think that I'm taking Cooper Kupp for 2 in this one.
I mean, why would you not ever not? You know,
yeah, plus 650. When we go for 2, I'll look at the list. I'm pretty sure I put him on there. Another one I like, you got Nakua at plus 190 for any time. He's going to find his way onto that ticket. So, Steve, I think for me here, it's going to be Ram props. Steelers have a good defense, but their offense really worries me. It's a little bit stale. They do get Deontay Johnson back today, I believe. But is that going to help their cause? That I'm not so sure of, Steve. So I think I would have to lean Rams here and put the usual suspects of Nakua and Kupp into my prospective tickets.
All right. That's not the worst thing in the world for sure to have those guys to root for. I think Kupp could have a big day. I think all these guys could. Pickens, Deontay Johnson is back today as well. He drops the ball a little too much for me to take him anymore. But where's Najee Harris been?
Yeah.
Have you heard his name all year? Literally. Pickens 24-1 for 2 touchdowns. Nakua 11-1. Cooper Kupp plus 750. Deontay Johnson 27-1. Higbee, a national tight end today, plus 2,500. Tutu Atwell 30-1. Love me some Tutu. And 43.5 is the total. I would take that as much up to. This is going to be the rare over game for the Steelers here. But, man, I wish I was getting paid more. Over 49.5 is just 2-1. Man, I don't want to climb much more than that, but I might. All right, to get a better payout of plus 320, you need 54 points here combined. So can this be a 30-24 game? I think it could be. I think the Rams definitely get their points, and they're going to let the Steelers get some points today as well. The bye week's going to help the Steelers offense for sure, coming out fresh for this game at SoFi. So I think this is an exciting game. I think this is one you can actually pin the over to and have some 4 o'clock positivity if you're invested in some of these players today. All right. Anything else with you here?
No, Steve, I think the receiving props is what I'm going to lean on.
Okay. National Tight End Day. These 5 tight ends to score 2 touchdowns. Dawson Knox at 37-1. Sam Laporta, 25-1. Logan Thomas, 35-1. Cole Kmet, 36-1. David Njoku, 40-1. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and do 50 cents a leg. And they won't even let me do it on the 4. It's 50 cents. Let's see. They'll let me do 10 cents. I don't even think I can do a 5-game parlay. Nope. All right, so this total bet is $5.50. All right, and it pays out $998,000. So this is literally 10 different 50-cent parlays. In fact, we should do by twos. If you get 2 of these guys, you'll get $630. So I'm going to play that angle. So 1050 is my investment on 50-cent 2-game parlays, 50-cent 3-game parlays, and 5 10-cent 4-game parlays. Now I'm talking cents, people, like dimes, all right, and 2 quarters. And this is round robin style, the name of the show. And again, if you don't know what that is, your first time listening, I'm taking all of the combination of these 5. And if all 5 hit, great. If only 4 of the 5 hit, then I'll get the combinations of those parties involved in 2 and 3-game parlays. And if 3 of the 5 hit, fine. 2 of the 5 hit, fine. So Dawson Knox, Sam Laporta, Logan Thomas, Cole Kmet, David Njoku. 1050 is the investment. That pays off now $1 million as the price has gone up. And that's literally putting 50 cents on the 2-game parlays. Once you click round robin, 50 cents on the 3-game parlays, and 10 cents on the 4-game parlay. They won't even let me bet the 5-game parlay because literally it goes over their allowable odds. So I will lock this in, and it is done. National Tight End Day in the books. Let's see if these boys can get me $1 million. All right, so 5 tight ends for 2 touchdowns, David. Hey, we've seen tight ends.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, that one divisional round, the guy won a buttload by parlaying the 4 first touchdown scores as tight ends.
Yep.
If you remember that. Okay, next game on the board. Survivor picks Seattle hosting Arizona, 8.5, 44.5. Geno takes too many sacks for me. He lobs it up. I don't know if Seattle can cover this number.
That's a big number, I feel like, for Seattle.
I think they're going to win, but I don't know if they're going to cover. Hopefully they can get right. Arizona's one-dimensional, though, with the running game right now. Maybe this kid comes out and sparks it for him for sure. Let's see what his rushing props are, actually. Keontae Ingram over-under is 33.5 rushing yards. They've been running the ball, so I wonder – Ingram that gets 60 yards or more is plus 320. I might take a shot at that.
Yeah.
And throw him in like a player prop dealio. Plus 470 for 70 yards or more. Plus 640 for 80 yards or more. So all that's kind of fair, to be honest, with Arizona. So I'm going to have to play something with him just to take a long shot on it. But Seattle scares me, man. I don't know, David. I just don't think Geno Smith is your answer. The good news for him today is Dobbs is competitive and fun, but comes out on the losing end here just too much.
Right.
What are your thoughts here?
Steve, that's a tough one. I feel like Seattle wins this game by a touchdown. Looking at another weekly special here for DK Metcalf and Lockett to combine for 160 plus receiving yards at plus 175. Maybe, but Steve, I just don't know in this one. You want to take a guy like Kenneth Walker to score, but to get any kind of money out of it, you got to take him twice.
Right. Yeah. And I love me some Kenneth Walker.
And even that, let's look at this, Steve. Over here with me, Kenneth Walker for 2 of them is at plus 245.
Wow.
So even that's not great. He's minus 210 just for 1. Steve, I think that this is probably going to end up being a no play from me. I'm not quite sure. I'm not the most comfortable with Geno, as you mentioned. And it's a game that they probably win. They should win by quite a few in my book, Steve. But I think they win by a touchdown, and it just makes it unattractive.
My initial thought all week was Seattle. But I don't know, man. The more I'm looking at it, the more I'm kind of
I think something's up here for me. When you were talking about that last one and something stinks.
Yeah, something
stinks here.
There's something there's a little rat running around the office somewhere that's making a big old stench.
Right.
And it's up there in Seattle for sure. There's a couple of these games that do that here. The Bears and the Raiders is the one we were talking about.
Right.
Okay. Let's do this game first. Green Bay and Denver. Green Bay 1.5, 45. I told Del Grande I love the Aaron Jones prop. 48.5 is just his regular rushing yards. Denver is is literally the parting of the Red Seas when running backs run through the Denver defense. I mean, they have complete open space, no resistance whatsoever. We saw what the Dolphins did to him. I took Breece Hall against them. I took Breece Hall to score and to have over 125 yards, and he had that at halftime against Denver. So I'm going to take Aaron Jones. Let's get back to Packer football. Let's run the ball with Aaron Jones some. That's going to take the pressure off of Jordan Love, right? So let's take the pressure off him. Let's run Jones into the ground a little bit. Even though he's coming off the injury, we got Dillon who can spell him, but Jones is the better player. I think the lack of Dillon's success has proven that. Now, Green Bay's lines may just be that bad, but I'm going to suspect that they are going to be able to move the ball against Denver, at least via the ground. And I'm going to take a prop here, and I'm going to bump up Aaron Jones to get over 100 yards today. 5-1 odds says Aaron Jones gets a 100-yard rushing game, and I'm going to stretch that to 110 yards because that's how bad the Denver defense is. Plus 700, and I'm going to parlay that with Keontae Ingram's 70-plus yards already. How about that, Nephew Dave?
I like that, Steve. I can get down with
that.
So
Green Bay wins this game by double digits in Denver. I'm not so sure the exact outcome of the final score, but I'm going to guess it's somewhere like 27-17.
I like Dobbs for 1 too at plus 215. Think that's going to be my play there.
Dobbs?
Yep.
Okay.
Dobbs for 1, just because I think he gets the most targets there, Steve.
Right. He had the 2 touchdowns at the kick off the season, and he's kind of slowed it up. I think Jordan Love has a chance to still be better. Still,
right
now he's been there forever. He should be better. His excuses are running out here. But Denver's the kind of team that can get the Packers right today. I just think.
Yeah.
All right. Christian Watson, 2-1 for him. 2 touchdown. Could be a 2 touchdown day 2 for Aaron Jones, plus 750 for him. Christian Watson, 16-1. Jaleel McLaughlin, 16-1. Cortland Sutton, Anthony's boy, 18-1. Dobbs, 24-1. Judy, 28-1. Jaden Reed, 28-1. Luke Musgrove, if you need a tight end, 33-1 on National Tight End Day. Javonte Williams plus 700 for him. I'm just going to stick with the Jones prop and hope that is what pans out for me. And I'll lean with the Packers on the spread. I won't go with a total here because I don't trust Denver to score. That's for sure. But I'll go Packers. They can win this game by 10 points. 27-17 is a good score for me. And Aaron Jones, a fantastic day running the ball through a terrible, terrible Denver defense.
That's probably the best play out of that, Steve. That sounds about right.
Okay. So that's the one prop that stuck out with me all week from the get-go once I knew he was going to play. All right, Kansas City and the Chargers, 5.5 by the Chiefs, 47.5. We talked a lot about this game already. San Diego can absolutely still win this division if they can sweep the Chiefs, and that has to happen today, David. So do they get the win?
The Chiefs, I think that they squeak it out, Steve. But the thing that worries me, like we mentioned earlier, is the Chargers knowing that they don't want to lose too much ground. And do they bring an effort that's, worthy of a victory here? That's the one thing that concerns me for the Chiefs. But it's in Kansas City. So, Steve, give me the Chiefs. You could throw Kelsey in there. Let's see here. I got a weekly special here. Mahomes for 300-plus passing yards. Pacheco, 50-plus rushing yards. and Rice for 50+ receiving yards at plus 550. Steve, I think it's just the usual characters here. Both of these offenses can put up points. We know that. Mahomes on one side, Herbert on the other. They're going to air it out, you would think. So maybe an overplay here, but, you got Keenan Allen there, Travis Kelce. Palmer gets his targets. He might be a sneaky play here. Let's look at a touchdown for him. Yeah, he's going to be Joshua Palmer plus 265 for a touchdown.
Wow. Okay.
So that's probably actually how I would go, Steve. You got to think that if the Chargers are airing it out a little bit, then he's going to spread it around, and we've seen Palmer score plenty of times before. So
bring him up to Del Grande about fantasy. Is he worth the pickup? He definitely likes Palmer as potential to have a decent game for sure. So I agree with you there.
But other than that, Steve, yeah, this is a game that you would think would go over the total.
I'm going to look for Kelce to have a big game again. He kills the Chargers, to be honest. So his prop number to get to 110 yards is plus 270, which I think he can do. I feel more comfortable about him getting the yardage than I do the touchdowns. Just because he's been getting those yards. I mean, he's been getting them in big, big chunks.
Right.
San Diego's going to let him run free again. I mean, but if you're going to do national tight end today, I mean, is there anyone else you're not going to have besides Kelce? So you got to throw him in for the 2 touchdowns as well. We're going to have to do another. I'm going to have 2 round robin touchdown tight end parlays, David. That's going to be crazy. But I'll take Kelce for 110 yards in the meantime before I make that happen. So how about this? Keontae Ingram, 70 yards. Aaron Jones, 110 yards. Kelce, 110 yards. Tutu Atwell, 1 touchdown. All right, so that's all the games there at 4 o'clock I'm going to play. And then if I do $2.50 on each leg, that's a $12.50 bet. And that pays off $3,000 of $12.50. So again, Aaron Jones, 110 yards. Keontae Ingram, 70 yards. Kelce, 110 yards. Tutu Atwell, 1 touchdown. Now, should I take Atwell off and throw in some Pickett props, Dave? What do you think?
Ooh, you could. You certainly could.
And just say Tutu is just sneaky, man.
He is.
That's why I'm just in a game that's going to have scoring. You can do that, but maybe I'll do both. Maybe I'll just go ahead and throw in because what they'll do is they'll make this 2 different round robins, and it won't be that much more money. And then we'll do it. Okay, so all together with a 5-game parlay, and we'll do $2.50 a leg. Well, this will pay $7,332. Pickett for 275, Atwell for a touchdown, Kelce 110, Aaron Jones 110, Keontae Ingram 70 yards. Interesting.
It is.
Altogether, that's $25 if I need to do that. So what they do, because you can't 3-game parlay the same guys all together with the same team. They'll actually split it up. So you'll have an odd. Now I have 7 different 3-game parlays, which kind of makes it weirder, instead of 4.
Right.
And none of those will include Atwell and Pickett together, if that makes sense. Okay. So I just expect Kelce to have a good game. What do you think, man? The Chiefs just don't have that number 1 receiver, Dave.
That's what they need.
Are you skeptical about them right now?
I kind of am, just because of the passing game. They don't. You make a good point. Is they just don't have that really solidified number 1. Yes, they have Kelce. They're always going to be looking towards him, but who else can you really look to past that? That's going to create some separation and cause the defense to think about this guy and kind of spread them out, Steve. So I think that's the one issue that I probably have with them.
All right. Yeah, and a good test for the Chargers. Where are you at, Los Angeles? You gonna get your act together and finally win one of these big games and not blow it here in the end? So we'll see. Something tells me the Chargers are going to do something very stupid here in the fourth quarter, right about 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, night game. Philly and the Dolphins, 8:20. Field goal favorite for the Eagles, 52.5 is the over-under. So this number is climbing over-under wise. David, is this a absolute shootout? Let me ask you.
I think it definitely could be. Yeah, there's just too much firepower all over this field for it not to be, Steve. I couldn't see how it would be. Dolphins defense is decent. Yeah, the Eagles have a good defense as well, but I mean, you have Waddle, Hill, Mostert, Tua. I mean, there is a lot to keep track of over there on the offensive side of the ball for the Dolphins, Steve. So both of these teams have proved that they can score points. We've seen Philly and quite a, not quite a few, but a couple games, they give up their fair share of points as well. So, Steve, I think in this one you got to be expecting points, and it's going to be props all over the place here.
Yeah, it sounds like, oh man, it's such a high over-under. Let me do that Sunday night sucker bet the under type of dealio. Usually that works. I'm not so sure that's going to work in this game.
Right.
And we might have a little bit of wind, but I don't think that's going to matter. And I think it's a green light for everyone. I was looking at Tyreek for sure. I'm going to involve him in some props. He's just the best. He's going to get to 2,000 yards. He is a beast. His prop number is 97.5. So that's just insane that it's like that. His alternate over to get to like 150 yards is plus 390. So you need to get Tyreek for 150 yards to get to that big 4-1 number, which he's capable of doing, to be honest. But this could be a fun game for sure. I'm not so sure Miami doesn't win this game. Again, something just seems off with Philly to me. And tough game here. I'll tell you what, my little futures bet, at least my Commanders or the Jets will benefit
Right.
from this, because one of these teams will lose. Maybe not. Maybe it's a tie, actually, right? 56-56 tie. That would be insane.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be crazy? So I think it's a green light fun game. Hopefully I'm still awake to watch it. We'll see how the day goes. And, usually the more depressed we get, the more we drink, the faster the shots go, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're celebrating and partying millionaires by the time this night game strikes. In Philadelphia, I'm going to lean Dolphins to the win here. And I'm going to look over, I think, get to the high 50s anyway. So give me a score, 38-34, which would be low 60s. 38-34, Miami.
I like it. Yep, give me Miami as well. You know that's coming.
All right. So we both got the Dolphins. I feel like the Eagles are somewhat the play too. Okay, let's see here. I mean, with the public.
Right.
All right, the Monday night game. San Fran, 6.5, 44. The Vikings are like the Chargers. They just do stupid things. And this is really the Niners with a 7-point win can cover this number. Can the Vikings keep this close, Dave?
I think the defense keeps them in it, but we'll see, Steve. I would like to think that this would be a better game, but I just don't know, Steve. I'm not quite trusting the Vikings yet, but like I said, with their defense has been showing to get a little bit better from week to week, as far as I've seen. Now you'll have to take a look at the injury report before this game.
Well, Debo's gone. We know that for a couple of weeks.
So, Steve, with the Niners defense, what about an under?
I kind of like the under, to be honest. That's what I said. Del Grande wasn't so sure about it because the Vikings are capable of scoring themselves. I just think this is like a 20-17 game. I would give the Vikings a chance to win this.
Right.
But I'm not shocked when they lose by 3. Niners don't cover. I would take the points here with Minnesota, I think that would be a tough swallow because I like to bet the 49ers. If McCaffrey's in, that helps. I'd like to see that. But I'll wait till the injury report, just kind of like what you said, David.
Right.
All right. So I'll pass on this for now. My one pass. Everything else I have some sort of an opinion on. But the Monday night game, we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it, I think, is my approach from here. 2 touchdown scores, though, and they do have McCaffrey listed for now. Plus 270 for him, Elijah Mitchell. Plus 270, Brandon Ayuk, 9-1. Alexander Madison, 10-1. Kittle, 12-1. Jordan Mason, 16-1. Hawkinson, 20-1. National Tight End Day will be a day late if you want him there. Jordan Addison, 24-1. The biggest villain in the premises of our bunker complex is KJ Osborne, 33-1 for his 2 touchdowns. San Fran defense, 43-1. Hey, that's interesting. The Cousins factor.
Right.
On the night game, yeah, prime time. 43-1.
Kirko Chains.
Yeah. There we go. We needed to get to laughing one time. All right, we're right at 11 a.m. So let's go ahead and get on out of here. What we'll do first is we will go for 2. As we'll cue up the music. The go for 2 music's on a slight delay. Takes about 7 seconds to kick in. Here we go. Our go for 2 segment where we pick our 2 touchdown scores for today.
Johnny.
4 weeks. 20 papers, that's $2 plus tip.
Gee, Johnny, I don't have a dime. Sorry.
Didn't ask for a dime. $2.
I give you 2 laps and a Ric Flair.
It's a jungle out there. You got to look out for number 1, but don't step at number 2.
Utah, give me 2.
And Jimmy 2 times, who got that nickname because he said everything twice, like...
I'm going to go get the papers.
All right, Nephew Dave, give me your 2 touchdown scores today.
All right, Steve, we're going to start off with Scary Terry McLaurin getting in for 2 today. Something tells me
I'm going to take a shot on that as well. Go ahead.
Something that tells me he's going to have a good day. So I think he's due for 1, getting his targets. So he's due for a good day. We're going to go Stephon Diggs over there against your Patriots.
I agree with that.
Amon St. Brown.
I agree with that.
And Cooper Kupp for 2.
Love it.
That's placing that's a 4-leg, 2 touchdown scoring parlay, placing 11 bets for $5 for $22,000.
And the round robin style?
About $23,000 on a round robin.
All right, there you go. That's it, David. That's what we're talking about. All right, anyone else?
No, I think that
you're going to stick with that.
I'm going to stick with that.
Okay, I'm going to take a shot on some receivers, some running backs, and some tight ends in all different plays here, as I have no shortage of 2 touchdown scorer plays at the moment. I'll start with David and Joe. I'll start with the tight ends for National Tight End Day. We'll go ahead and get the national tight ends taken care of. But I'll take Njoku, Logan Thomas, Dawson Knox, Cole Kmet, our CrossFit boy Bagnett will get Kmet in there twice, and Sam Laporta-Potty for the Lions will get in there as well. So that parlay pays a ridiculous amount of money. I forget what it is, $5 to win $1 million or something like that. So we'll do that. Receiver wise of superstars, I'll go with this. I'll go with McLaurin, St. Brown. I'll take Pickens. I'll throw Kelsey in there. And let's see. Who's the other one? Oh, I took your boy Flowers. Your boy Zay Flowers.
Yep,
okay. So we'll go ahead and throw him in for 2 touchdowns as well. Sneaky 2 touchdown scorer today. If I have one, go ahead and take Aaron Jones. That would be a good one to throw in as well. Tyreek Hill, I'll find myself with 2 touchdowns for him by the end of the day as well. All right, locks for you, Nephew Dave. What are your bets?
All right, Steve. So I've got a little interesting stuff going on here. Let's get this opened up. If it'll ever be on speed. All right, come on.
I'll load mine up as well, so we don't have to wait for me to load up.
All right, so first one here, Steve. We're going with the Commanders race to 20 points. Under 35 in the Cleveland Colts game. The Falcons and the Buccaneers each to score a rushing touchdown, and the Buffalo Bills to win both halves of that game. And then another one that I haven't fired yet, but I am going to. We'll pull that up as a little three-legger I've got going on here. Boy, this thing is just really quit the day at the end here. Goodness great. All right. St. Brown and Flowers to combine for 150 plus receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Travis Kelce for 2 touchdowns. And Scary Terry McLaurin for 1. Steve, if you put a $10 bill on that 3-leg, it'll be $1,239.
All right, that seems very doable. That's for sure. All right, anything else?
That's going to do it.
All right, there you go. Nephew Dave, short and sweet. I'm going to take this $6 alternate line parlay that I did earlier in the week. And I still feel decent about this. But we'll take a shot at the Commanders to win by 14 or more. The Bills in a minus 19.5 point blowout of the Patriots. We'll lay 9.5 on the road with the Lions at Baltimore. Yes, that sounds crazy. And I'll lay 12.5 with the Packers at the Broncos. But the $6 parlay for that pays $3,799. In more common sense plays, I'm going to do a quadruple under just in case that's what we get. I'll do Browns Colts under 35.5, Raiders Bears under 31.5. I told you I'm going to take the Falcons Buccaneers over, which I will, but I also have it under 31.5 just in case. And I have Cardinals Seahawks under 36.5 and a little round robin El Cheapo guy. So that pays $1,500 if that hits. Jahmyr Gibbs, you can throw him on my 2 touchdown scorer list as well for Denver or for Detroit. Eckler as well. Eckler for 2 touchdowns. I'll take a shot with him. The Eckler Kelce would be a good parlay to do.
Oh,
in that
yeah,
game.
a little same game there.
A little same game parlay action. Let's see. Anything else? I'm not committed to this. This is just a stab in the dark shot. But I'll try Howell for 275 plus yards passing. I'll try Mayfield for 275 yards passing. How about that? Crazy bet. Goff 300 plus yards. Jordan Love 300 plus yards. There's no way I expect this to win. But again, it's an El Cheapo. $3 pays $1,600 if that happens. 1 touchdown each. For Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, Brian Robinson, Mike Evans, Jahmyr Gibbs. That pays $160 to 1 on that. I did one more 6-game anytime touchdown score. I put 20 on this, it looks like. This must have been earlier in the week, but this pays almost $2,200. Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Robinson, Kenneth Walker III, Najee Harris, Austin Eckler, and Aaron Jones.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? So we'll take a shot at that. I'm not going to show you this stupid bet because that's just stupid. Anyone else here? Anything else pop up as I scroll through my list? Okay, I told you I did the under in the Falcons. I also bet them over 49.5. Over in the Commanders, 47.5. Over 54.5. Detroit Ravens. Bills, Patriots over 48.5. Again, that's just if all these games. I did it both ways. If they go haywire under, I'm covered. If you go haywire over, I'm covered as well.
Yep.
So that's just kind of my thought on that for a theme for today. Anyone else? Devontae Adams, I'll throw on the 2-touchdown list as well. And we'll go ahead and call that a wrap. Oh, I do like this one. The 4 o'clock prop bet of the games. Keontae Ingram, 70 yards rushing for the Cardinals. Tutu Atwell, 1 touchdown. Kenny Pickett, 275 yards passing. Aaron Jones, 110 yards rushing. Travis Kelce, 110 yards receiving. Those all parlayed together. $2.50 pays $7,334. And we're still rooting for the Rangers over the Phillies in the final. Phillies over the Rangers in the final. I have those 2 tickets going. I'm getting offered. I was getting offered $100 this time last week, down to $55 now that the Rangers have blown a 2-0 lead to the Astros, and Altuve comes through again, man. What do you think of Altuve's clutchness, Dave? I asked Del Grande that, but he's as clutch as it gets.
I'd say about as good as it gets. It really is. You can count on him, that's for sure.
All right, so I'm going to consider this a dead ticket unless the Rangers can pull off. I will call that an upset tonight. They're not favored as much. The line's about even in the Rangers Astros game. I think the Astros are minus 125, Rangers plus 110. Over under 8.5, as you see that on the ticker below as well. All right, we're right after 11 o'clock. That will do it for the Week 7 round robin. Thank you for bearing with our early technical issues. It wasn't that big of a deal. We just had to do a quick reset, and that will do it for us today. So we'll queue up the Pie Tasters. It is Thanksgiving next month as well. So the Pie Tasters, we'll try to get them in studio again. We need to get the show on the road sooner than later, doing something, get out of the studio, have some fun. So all that's up for grabs. Deep End 757 website has been redesigned. So check that out. Online store down at the bottom as well. If you want our picks, you can pay for them now. If you don't want to listen and just want some advice, we give you a little bit of a subscription offer. So that, and always check out the YouTube channel to subscribe. Deep End 757 Broadcasting. All right, Nephew Dave, good luck.
Good luck.
All right, good luck, everyone. Have a good one. Happy Week 7.